times are running out. Tick-tock.
Yes. Tell me, is it 1 in 4 marriages that end in divorce now, or 1 in 3?
1 in 3.
That was before she got the head transplant, by the way, which is a topic for another day. The number to call or text is 877-301-8970. We wanted to know what you think are the most, vile, offensive questions that get casually tossed around by family members during the holidays, and how do you navigate them during your annual get-togethers? 877-301-8970 is the number.
I love these stories. I mean, people are really at the holiday season gearing up to go home to the family and confronting questions like, gee, looks like you've put on 20 pounds.
I've encountered that, by the way.
Yeah.
It's usually true.
Gee, what happened to that nice man you were dating? He seems to have disappeared. There was this great story in the Wall Street Journal that talked about this guy named Sean Riley who started this company called Dude Wipes.
I saw this. It's pretty good.
Essentially baby wipes for grown-ups. He was home and he was ridiculed by his entire family. But then he went on Shark Tank, that show that used to, I think, is Mark Cuban still on there?
I don't know if he is.
I don't know. But anyway, it took off. And his Dude Wipes has done really, really well. Everybody's embarrassed. And they're the people that lie about their jobs, that they...
Well, I say, how's your work? I mean, that's the most... Callum Borchers, who's a former Globe, he wrote the Wall Street Journal story.
That's right.
That he says that's the most common. So how's work kind of thing. And then there's that woman there who lost her job 6 months ago and is dreading to go to, even though she's enjoyed unemployment, dreads going to Christmas because she has to answer that question.
The worst one is when you have to tell them you got fired for trolling the intern pool at the office and they threw you out on your rear end. But anyway, what kind of questions are you dreading to get this Christmas about your love life, about your recent divorce, about why you can't get a job, why you can't move out of mom and dad's basement?
Why are you leaving politics out of this? When someone turns to you, your uncle, and says, aren't you glad that Biden was finally impeached? I mean, the political questions, like we do with the famous Adele scene from Saturday Night Live, when they all stand up and start singing Adele when the political discussions get uncomfortable. The number's 877-301-8970. What's the line of inquiry that you most dread as you approach visiting your family or close friends or whatever it is come Christmas time? 877-301-8970.
Amber just texted a good one. She says I'm not sure if she wants to sit at the kiddie table for Christmas dinner or if they shove her at the kiddie table at Christmas dinner. But that's always, do you get to sit with the grown-ups? Do you get to sit with the adolescents? Or do you get to sit, as poor Amber either gets shoved or wants to be at the kiddie table? 877-301-8970. People asked you about putting on 20 pounds, Jim. Does that happen to you?
Usually when I put on 20 pounds. So it's not an inappropriate question. Well, it's inappropriate. You shouldn't be asking the question. But the answer is yes. And the issue, I always think about you when I think about these kinds of situations, because you are, I know you hate this, you're one of the nicest people I've ever met.
I'm
maybe
very
the
nice.
nicest.
Yeah, very nice.
So I assume when someone were to ask you an embarrassing or inappropriate question at the holiday table, you would politely smile. You would not shoot back at him like Bridget Jones just did in that little clip, would you?
I don't remember being asked horrible questions at my... So I've been going to the same holiday thing forever. I go to my cousins every single solitary year. We've all grown up together, so there's no embarrassing.
They're the ones that retired at 50 from the public sector? Are they not that?
That's right. This year I bring the steak tips. I'm very excited about that.
You are?
Yes, I am.
You are?
Yes.
You can make steak tips? I don't think so.
You just buy them and you marinate them. That's all you do. You just buy them and marinate them. Another one is what did you do to your hair?
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's a good one.
But don't you think some relatives sort of get off on making you uncomfortable or unhappy? I don't mean you. One at the dinner table who they're not crazy about. I think that's part of the joy for a bunch of miscreants who happen to be at your holiday celebration, don't you think?
I don't know if people try to be mean or they're just kind of curious about your life or what. It's usually the older people asking the younger people. In other words, when you're going to get your life together. Donna says, just text, I'm a single retired woman and everyone seems to think that I should get a cat.
877-301-8970. What is the question or set of questions or line of inquiry that makes you most anxious or angry come Christmas time at the dinner table?
Here's another one. Did you still talk to your... Oh, I'm sorry. Did you hear from your ex? emphasizing the fact that you don't have a husband anymore. And a big one is, when are you going to move out of your parents' house? That's a big one for everybody.
Well, by the way, the next question is, I think there's a prequel to that, which is, I really like John. Do you hear from him? I mean, that's where it's a much more loaded question than otherwise.
And we talked a lot about politics at Christmas time. I think at Thanksgiving time, I think, that's always the debate. Do you get into a fight over the table, or do you just try to avoid the whole subject?
I used to think you avoid. I don't think you avoid any of that stuff anymore, even if it creates some. The problem with engaging with inappropriate questions is, even though it is totally appropriate to make the questioner uncomfortable, the problem is you make all the non-questioners who are sitting at the table uncomfortable too, which I think is a problem.
Oh, here's a good one. This is from Emil in Marlborough. My wife and I had our first child 10 years after we were married. In those 9 years, we were always asked, when are you going to have a baby? When are you going to have a baby? And Emil apparently had an answer, which was, we're just going through the motions.
877-301-8970. Jamie, our lead producer, says he loves it when his parents ask me, so did you see the story about whatever QAnon conspiracy they saw? By the way, he's telling the truth. Do your parents listen to the show? They do not. They would never.
That's good.
Okay, so you don't have to worry about this. This is not exactly their cup of tea. Jamie is sort of going, not a chance in the world that they would waste their time listening to people like me and Marjorie Egan.
Here's another one. I once brought my new boyfriend, and my sister said to him, so, you're the new flavor of the month.
That's a pretty good one, too.
Yeah. And people talk about, they critique the new boyfriend or new girlfriend. That's really kind of embarrassing, too. So 877-301-8970. What do you think are the most embarrassing questions, or what questions are you worried about avoiding? At Hanukkah, my aunt looked at me because I had gained some weight and said, well, dear, you still have a pretty face.
Oh, that's so nice. By the way, it turns out we just found out we are having some phone problems, so we're going to take a really quick break. 877-301-8970. Don't give up. We've got technical problems. They'll be fixed in a second. 877-301-8970. Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We are live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News, facebook.com/GBH News. In about 15 minutes, you're going to hear Kieran Rhodes. We heard Kieran singing this morning. We've heard him before. He is spectacular. That's about 15 minutes away. And at the end of the show, assuming his plane from New York gets here on time, Brookline kid who has a huge smash that was on Broadway, it was in Scotland, it was in Los Angeles. It's now at the Emerson Colonial for the next 3 days. Alex Edelman from Brookline will join us here as well. 877-301-8970. I believe the phones are working. Try them. 877-301-8970. If you're just joining us, we set aside time to talk about I guess this is an attempt to provide a cathartic experience for you. We set aside time to talk about the worst of the worst when it comes to holiday small talk, questions and issues that are raised by your family, friends, etc., that make you wildly uncomfortable. Give us some examples, and give us some examples about how you respond to those things. 877-301-8970.
So we have a lot of good texts. This person is dreading the question, when are you going to go back to work and use that master's degree? That's a good one. And then the same person says she's also dreading the criticism from the fact that she is still breastfeeding her baby, even though the baby's not even a year. The baby's 10 months old. She's getting a lot of criticism for breastfeeding. I don't know when her parents think she should stop, or her family thinks they should stop. In this Callum Borges piece from the Wall Street Journal, they talk about this guy, Kevin Markwell, who's the chief operating officer of the sales agency, and he says he sometimes meets those quote-unquote banking bros with swashbuckling tales of their deal-making prowess. He said his career as a financial compliance analyst helps him sniff out the BS. He says a lot of people brag about how much money they make and how well they're doing, even if they're not doing very well.
Let's take some calls. The phones are finally working. Thank you for whoever fixed them. Nikki and Waylon, you're first on Boston Public Radio. Welcome to the show. Hey.
I listen to your show all the time. I love you both.
Well, thank you. It's very kind of you.
When I was young,
Yeah.
I was going to my younger brother's engagement party,
Yeah.
and his fiance's mother came up to me and my mother and said, "Oh boy," she said. I went singly. Said, "Oh, he's not bad looking. We can find her a guy."
What'd you say to that, Nikki?
I was speechless, to tell you the truth. I was like, "Oh," but my mother said, "Oh, she's got two already."
That's a nice little comeback by a protective mom. Nikki, thank you very much for listening, and thank you for your call. 877-301-8970 is the number.
Scott in the Vineyard said he's so tired of being asked when he's going to propose to his girlfriend that he might just propose to shut everybody up.
Do you know what I just realized?
What?
I just realized, I was saying, when we were talking about this morning, I was saying to you, I don't think I've had any of these experiences, and I realized my uncle's first wife, I was a legal services lawyer in the South Bronx. I totally forgot about this. My first time home to Philadelphia, which is where I'm from, and they obviously still married. She was there. She turned to me and she was saying, "So how's the job?" And I was telling her I love it. I'm in the South Bronx. I'm doing so-and-so. Legal services lawyer making like $11,000 a year. And with a smile that was one of those cutting kinds of things, she said, "When you can become a real lawyer?" And so, by the way, which I used to get from clients from time to time. So it was not just her. 877-301-8970. Sadly, she is no longer with us.
Sloan,
not so sadly.
Sloan in Gloucester.
Hi,
Thank you
Sloan.
for calling.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
And I'll just quickly share something that I'm relatively new to AA, and I was at a family function, not a holiday function yet, but at a family function where other individuals and relatives were there. And a particular relative blurted out in the middle and said, "Hey, how's that sobriety going? Are you still doing it?" And it was, everyone stopped, and I'm open about it. I'm open. The family knows about it and all of that. However, it was sort of one of those, really? And this particular individual probably had way too much to drink at this point, which is
sort of
why
fitting.
Sometimes I'm sketchy about family functions. So, so that was my kind of, okay.
Well, that's an moment. Yeah, go ahead.
I didn't have a funny comeback. I didn't have something like Bridget Jones to respond with or something, but, I think the next time I'll be prepared.
Well, I hope there isn't the next time. Hey, Sloan, thanks.
I hope not.
Thanks for sharing that story. I hope you have a wonderful Christmas. 877-301-8970 is the number.
Mary from Boston says she has a way of dealing with these rude questions and nasty relatives. She just doesn't answer, leaves the question hanging, walks out of the room, and does not return to the same party the following year.
By the way, that is a wonderful way to respond. So you can't be blamed for creating a sort of a hostile environment by responding in kind, but everybody gets it by the silence. That's actually pretty good, don't you think?
Yeah. Or what's I read somewhere something when somebody asks you a question like that, good rejoinder is, why would you ask me such a question?
That's a good one too, actually.
That's a good one too.
Yeah. How many times do you use that? None.
Not yet. But you never know. Christmas is coming up, and this could be the year. Jim at Attleboro, thank you for calling.
Hey, Jim, welcome.
Hey, how you guys doing?
I think we're good.
Hey, I do most of the cooking.
Yeah.
And I hate when people say, "Oh, what you put in the stuffing?" This and that. Oh, it's not as good as Randy's stuffing.
That's pretty hard.
maybe you should have put a little more Parmesan in the meatballs. But why didn't you make the meatballs?
Well, that's my kind of response, Jim. Is why don't you make the damn meatballs?
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. You know, because sometimes you end up eating so late on Christmas, you know, that everybody, if you're still having turkey, which I hope we're...
Yeah, but what kind of person criticizes the person who is kind enough to cook the damn meal?
I've heard lots of people criticize
the cook?
Yeah, they'll say the turkey's really dry.
In front of the person who cooked the turkey?
The turkey's really dry. Yeah, I've heard that a lot. Because, in fact, the turkey is really dry, and we should have eaten like about 3 hours earlier. Ann from Holliston, what do you
think? Hey, Jim,
think?
thank you for your call. We appreciate it.
Hi, Ann.
Hello, Ann.
Hi,
Jim. Oh, sorry. Okay. I thought you forgot who we were. Go ahead.
So I was breastfeeding 7-month-old twins, and my mother-in-law came over. And when I put them up for their nap, she looked at me and said, "You look cowy. You really need a breast reduction.
Oh,
when you get older, you look like your husband's mother."
Oh, jeez.
That's really
nice. That was
nice.
really nice.
And, of course, the question is, how did you respond to that, Ann?
There was no response. My mother always said, "Say a Hail Mary in your head."
That's pretty good.
That's what I did.
Oh, good for you. Ann, thank you for the call. We
Here's
appreciate
Alan from Situate. I have an uncle from the Deep South who asked the whole table at the holidays if we'd prefer Mitt Romney with his magic underwear or Bill Clinton with no underwear.
Well, that's actually a pretty good question.
And the whole table agreed that they preferred Bill Clinton.
Do you want to explain? We've done
with
whole
no
shows
underwear.
on magic underwear. Do you want to explain what it is for people who don't know? It's a Mormon thing.
It's a Mormon thing, yeah. There's a certain kind of white underwear that Mormon men and women, some of them, I don't know if all of them, but some of them supposedly wear this. I think it has to do with chastity or something like that, but I'm not really sure. And I think was Mitt Romney ever asked if he wore the Mormon underwear? He probably was.
I don't know, actually.
But I don't remember. I remember what he said. My aunt asks every year, "Are you still married to that Jewish girl?"
that's actually a pretty good one.
Yeah.
That's a really good one.
Okay. And here's Chris from Belmont who says, "Here's the question I dread. So, are we going to see you this holiday?" And apparently, they're not going to see them that holiday or many holidays to come. Let's go to Ellen in Somerville.
Hey, Ellen,
what do you
how
think,
are you?
Ellen?
Fine. How are you?
Fine, thank
Excellent.
you.
What's up?
Good. Well, years ago, my sister had a boyfriend, and my mother didn't really like him too much. And my sister was living in Cambridge, and the boyfriend moved to New York, and he came up for a weekend to see her. And my sister was talking to our mother and said, and our mother said, "Well, where is he staying?" And my sister was in her 30s at the time, and my sister said, "Well, he's staying with me." And my sister said, "Well," my mother said, "But you only have one bed in your apartment." And my sister said, "Well, he's staying in my bed." And our mother got very upset and said, "How dare you talk to me that way?" and hung up the phone.
Well,
there you go.
that's probably a blessing, as some people might say. Ellen, thank you for sharing that with us. We appreciate it. 877-301-8970. Now, the next caller, if you just started listening to the show, we have voted as the caller of the year to this show.
Oh, Liliana.
In 2023.
Yeah.
For those who are not familiar, we should have this ready, Jamie. Liliana broke into our ranks.
No.
Oh, wait with Liliana. We want to bring people up to speed. When that woman from New Hampshire sued the, what's that place called?
Italy.
For $50,000 for slipping on a piece of prosciutto.
Yep.
We have actually, hold on, Liliana. We have the sound when Liliana called in for the first time ever to defend Italy and trash the plaintiff. Here it is.
Oh, please. First of all, prosciutto is a cured meat, and it does not have the greasy shine.
That's a very good point, actually.
That mortadella has.
Exactly.
Or Coca-Cola. I cannot stand such stupid women that have no idea what Italian food is and Italian customs and all that.
And here she is in the flesh from Fall River, Liliana. How are you, Liliana? Merry Christmas.
I am not well, Jim.
Oh, why?
I have had, I've had COVID and it's still hanging on.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
I'm negative, but it's the cold and the tiredness. And I have so many things to do. still cookies, and I have to make the tortellini tomorrow.
yeah.
So anyway, but I want to tell you that
Yeah.
at my table, nobody asks embarrassing questions.
No.
My children have this habit of bringing up all of the horrible things I did as a mother to them. Okay? Oh, do you remember the time you ran around the house and you had the tape measurement and you were trying to whip me? And I said, of course I remember. I said, my mother ran around the kitchen table with a broom when we did something wrong.
Those were the
And
days, Liliana,
inevitably,
yes. Yeah.
yes, she broke the chandelier every time.
She broke the chandelier.
That's excellent. Now, Liliana,
Yes, in the kitchen.
can I ask you a question? When you called us before Thanksgiving, it was a week before Thanksgiving, and you had already set the table because you wanted to get it out of the way. Have you set the Christmas table yet? You have?
No, because I'm going to my daughter's, but I expect everything ready because tomorrow we are going to make over 500 tortellini.
500 tortellinis?
That's what she said, 500
wow.
tortellinis, yeah.
How many people are you going to have for Christmas, or is your daughter going to have for Christmas, Liliana?
Well, it happened that I had COVID after Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
so I couldn't go to the family meeting to make them. We usually make 1,000.
1,000.
Because we have about 30 people.
30, yeah.
Wow.
Well, Liliana,
you know,
most
and
importantly,
everybody-
are you fully recovered from COVID? Are you all better?
No, she's still
I
feeling.
am recovered from COVID, but I am very weak.
Yeah.
I'm tired. I'm depressed. And that's it.
Well,
Liliana,
Liliana, if
we're
it helps
sorry.
you, you're one of our favorite people.
Yep.
And we hope you feel better, enjoy Christmas.
Yes, I will. The
and-
23rd is my 80th birthday.
Oh, December
Happy
23rd?
Birthday, Liliana.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the 20th, I'm going to see Bocelli.
Who?
So I'm happy.
Wait, who are you going to go see?
Bocelli.
The
Andrea Bocelli.
Oh my God!
Bocelli, but he just
Bocelli.
called in sick about a week ago.
Oh, no. He has a new show, the 20th.
20th. Okay, well, we really hope he's well. We hope you love it. My daughter went to see him last year and loved him.
Yeah.
And happy birthday, Liliana. We love you, and we hope you have a wonderful year and get better soon. Liliana from Fall River, one of the greats ever. We are so lucky to know her 80th birthday on December 23rd.
Yep, and 1,000 tortellinis. If she,
1,000 tortellinis.
But since she's not feeling well, she's only going to make 500.
500, only
Oh my
500.
God!
I'd like to see
okay.
you make
We
500
yeah, forget
tortellinis.
that. We're moving on. It is time for Live Music Friday. We're very excited. We're going to hear from the incredibly talented singer, songwriter Kieran Rhodes, brought to us by Salt Lake Incubator. We'll explain what that's about. But it was founded by former Berkeley president Roger Brown, and its president, Liza Levy, is going to join us next. You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7, broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News and facebook.com/GBH News.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marge Regan. We're live at the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News and facebook.com/GBH News. It's Friday on BPR at the library, so it must be Live Music Friday. In a couple of moments, you're going to hear some music from this wildly talented young man, Kieran Rhodes, for Live Music Friday. Kieran's currently involved with the Salt Lick Incubator, a nonprofit that fosters emerging musical talent right here in our backyard. The founder and chair of this organization is a guy who knows a thing or two about fostering musical talent. That would be the former president of Berkeley, Roger Brown, standing right here. Hi, Roger. It's great to see you.
Roger.
And then there's this Liza Levy, formerly with Universal Music, now president of the Salt Lick Incubator, but much more importantly, allegedly the former college friend of our lead producer, Jamie. Is there any truth to that, or is that BS?
It is so true.
He's a real asshole. Excuse me, I'm not supposed to say that, Emma. Excuse
Rowdy.
me. No, we love him. He's a fabulous guy.
Hope you caught that, John.
Liza, Roger, and Kieran, it's great to have you. Welcome to all three of you.
Thanks so much for having us.
So let's start with you, Roger. What is a Salt Lick and where did its name come from?
Where'd the name come from?
Yeah.
Wait, we need a little mic action here, guys.
So my father grew up on a farm in South Georgia, subsistence farm with some pigs and chickens and cows, and they had a mule, and they had a salt lick. And the salt lick is this thing that nourishes the animals, and it brings them together in community. So it felt like, wouldn't that be a good name for what we're doing? And we're focused on very song-driven music, Americana, roots, neo-soul, R&B, musics that I think evoke that idea of coming together and being part of a community.
Before we get Liza into this conversation, I didn't know till you said hello this morning, Roger, that a cow could run. Apparently cows can run. You had an experience back at that Salt Lick thing in wherever the hell it was, Georgia.
Yes.
Could you describe that to us for a second?
Well, my mother and I were cutting through the pasture where the cows were.
Of course.
And one of the cows started to charge at us. And my mother, who was a pretty good athlete, sprinted and leapt over the fence and left me behind. And I was impressed by my mother's athletic skills, but I was kind of left in there in the pasture with the cow. It did not attack me, and I survived. But
whatever happened to that guy is the question a lot of people ask. So, Liza, you had a huge job, and
several.
Yeah. Well, how'd you get involved in this thing, and why?
Well, I started off as a tour manager, so I worked with young bands and was out on the road, and then was at Rounder Records here in Boston and then Nashville for about 12 years, working on the marketing side, and then jumped over to Universal Music Group out in LA. And wanted to, and it was a fabulous experience working with the biggest of the big artists. But
like who, for example?
Rolling Stones.
The Rolling Stones, the Beatles, Bob Marley, Janet Jackson.
I've heard of them. I've heard of them. Yeah.
A few names.
Yeah.
So when you work with people like that, I mean, I would be totally starstruck. I wouldn't be able to open my mouth. But after a while, it must not be so. Do you remain starstruck, or does it kind of calm down?
Well, there's many, many layers of what's going on in their camp. So oftentimes you're working with management and sometimes artists directly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you start to chill out on it a little bit. But I really, really missed working with the artists who were just like so hungry for it and just had the fire in the belly and were down to experiment and get creative. And, you know, sometimes when you've gotten to a point in your career, you know, where you're at that level, you don't need to experiment anymore.
Well, you're so old too. You've been involved so long in the industry. Obviously, it's your last job. So, what appealed about her to you, Roger Brown?
The thing that appealed to me most is her first gig was tour managing 9 adolescent girls. And she managed to come back with all of them alive. And I thought, okay, she can do anything. No, she knows how to work with artists.
What were they called? Wait, what were they called?
It's called Girl Authority. It was a Boston-based band.
Girl Authority.
Out of Sudbury, Massachusetts.
Sudbury, so go ahead, Roger. I'm sorry, you were saying?
So I just felt like Liza, she helped me brainstorm the whole idea. We kind of made this thing up. And I felt like she had great ideas. She had the fire in the belly. She really wanted to do this. We got along well. She was really able, she and I are able to debate and discuss. And, you know, I'll have a harebrained idea and she'll say, really? I don't think that makes any sense. So we have a good chemistry. And so we just decided to kind of join hands and set off on trying to make this happen.
And by the way, in a second, we're going to hear Kieran. We'll talk to him, too, in a couple of minutes. We didn't know, but months ago, we had a band in studio, back at our tiny little studio in Brighton by the name of Tiny Habits, and they totally wowed us. They were unbelievable. Then I bumped into you somewhere, and I learned that Tiny Habits was a product of this wonderful operation. Here's a little bit of Tiny Habits, again in our studio in Brighton, doing their rendition of The Great Landslide by Fleetwood Mac.
Well, I've been afraid of changing, 'cause I built my life around you. And time makes you bolder, even children get older, and I'm getting older too.
Wow,
They're unbelievable.
they're like 11 or something,
Yeah,
or
and
whatever.
at the time they just had a couple of songs, but now they've got a whole, we can find them on Spotify, wherever we get our music kind of deal.
My wife asked me what has been one of the peak experiences of Salt Lake, and it was driving to the Troubadour in LA for a sold-out show by Tiny Habits, performing the music from their new EP that Salt Lake helped support.
Okay.
So
we find it, Tiny Habits, we just look for it, we can find it.
Yeah, Tiny Habits has got a bunch of great music out, and they've got another crop of music coming out soon, produced by this legendary producer, Tony Berg. They're amazing, super
They are
gifted.
amazing.
And they're Berkeley kids,
Yeah.
and they're not. But you don't have to be a Berkeley person to be involved in this Salt Lake incubator.
Right. I mean, Berkeley is a great source of talent, but we've had kids from Miami and USC and Belmont, and then a lot of kids who don't get to go to a music school. One of our focuses with our diversity effort is also to find people in rural areas who don't have the opportunities that kids in cities have. So we got a band out of Athens, Alabama called Carver Commodore, who are fantastic. And we feel like we're kind of bringing them into some of the experiences that a Berkeley student might have.
How do you find all these people, Liza?
Well, we have a grant application process, so anyone can apply if you're an unsigned artist for these grants, and then we have a wonderful artist advisory board that helps make those decisions, composed of John Batiste and Charlie Puth and Patrice Rushen.
Wow.
And
Puth is a Berkeley guy
Mason
too,
Jr.
isn't Puth? Yeah, but go ahead.
Indeed,
And
he
so, is there anything? I mean, this is such an obviously needed and important idea. Does anything exist like this, Liza, or no?
We feel really fortunate to be able to partner with artists like this and have just their best interest in mind across the board, right? Because if you're a manager, if you're a label, if you're an agent, you have certain numbers that you have to hit. For us, success is just if the artist is in a better place in their career than when they first came to us, which so far has been the case.
But I don't think there really is in this domain. In classical music, there's a lot of support like this. In visual arts, there's a lot of support for emerging artists. But in the domains we're working in, there's not much like this.
So how'd you find Kieran? We know how we found Kieran, but how did you find Kieran?
That's a good question. How did we find Kieran?
Well, you better figure it out quickly because he's here. You know what I mean?
Well, back from our Berkeley days, we had a casting director in town, and she had 30 minutes free and said, "Let me hear some music." And I turned to the students and I said, "Who's the musician who's going to wow this casting director?"
Is that really
And they
true?
said, it's totally true. Carissa Bowen and Marlon Solomon. They said, "Call Kieran, get him down here." And I think he said at first no because he was on a date. And he said, "Is that true?"
Did you say no because you were on a date?
Yes, that is true.
That was a little irresponsible, don't you think?
It was. It was weird. I got the call, and I wasn't like used to doing things last minute, and like Marlon called me and was like, "Hey, you should be in the Red Room right now to play for these people." And I was like, "Oh my God, I'm not ready. Like I didn't know this was happening. Like I'm with a girl right now." So I said no, and I hung up.
Yeah.
And then
It's a really good career move, by the way, to hang up on people who want to promote your music.
Yeah.
Kieran.
Yeah. And I actually, like, seriously, swear to God, like, I had this, like, weird, like, thought. I was like, okay. I started feeling bad about it. And I called them back 5 minutes later. And I was like, okay, I'm coming. And I, like, sprinted there.
Well, it's a good move. Why don't you play for us, and then you're going to join us over here so we can talk to all three of you together. What are you playing?
This is a song called Nobody Likes You.
Kieran Rhodes.
Jim, it's your song.
Oh, that's funny, Marjorie. That's really funny. Kieran Rhodes singing Nobody Likes You.
Let's kick it off when you were 16 with a dream. You were calling the shots and they were calling you queen. But then out of nowhere you're all alone. You're calling your friends but nobody's home. You wonder what is, but darling, the truth is Nobody likes you. Nobody wants to. If somebody loves you, they prefer not to. It's sad, but it's true, girl. Nobody likes you. Let's pick it up when you were 19 with a plan. You were top of the heap and they were kissing your hand. But all of a sudden, what do you see? You're calling your family and nobody's free. You gotta call, take it from me. Nobody likes you. Nobody wants to. If somebody loves you, they prefer not to. It's sad, but it's true, girl. Nobody likes you. You. Nobody wants to. And if somebody loves you, well, they'd prefer not to. Nobody likes you.
Kieran Rhodes, join us, Kieran. That was fabulous.
That
Wow.
was absolutely fabulous. I wonder who that person was that nobody likes very much. We have to get to the bottom of that.
Kieran's coming over here.
Yeah, he's coming over here. So we've seen so many clips of you, and one of them, you're going to tell us a story, Kieran, about when you're going on before Simon Cowell, America's Got Talent, and you are beginning with a Billy Joel song.
Yes.
What happened?
Well, wait, we have the sound. Let's
we have
play
the
the
sound.
sound.
Oh,
and
that's
then
right.
He can fill it in. Here is that moment, interrupted by, I mean, by the way, I'm anxious when I hear this, and I had nothing to do with it. Simon Cowell cuts him off in the middle of performing that Billy Joel song. Here it is.
Okay, let me ask a question, sorry. So, do you write your own songs?
I do write my own songs.
Have you got one with you?
Sure. It's called Disengage.
And what's it about?
I wrote this song last semester in the fall. I went through a lot of depression during that time, and I wrote this song trying to get through that, and I hope that it can resonate with you.
Thank you, Kieran.
Yeah.
Okay, and you go on to play this song, at the end of which Simon is like beside himself. People are tearing up in the audience. Some of the judges are tearing up. He was practically tearing up, and he talked to you about being bullied. Was that what he was talking about? He related to depression and being bullied?
Yeah, he totally related with the song, which is everything I was hoping for. I have never seen Simon have an emotional reaction like that to anybody,
really?
and I've been watching him for, I don't know, since I was a kid on TV and stuff.
Since I was a kid.
Yeah.
What exactly are you now?
And I guess I'm still a kid.
Okay. But I want to go back a little bit. I cannot imagine the anxiety. You're up there. I assume you got to be wildly nervous. Is that, I don't know you. Are you a nervous kind of, no?
I just get excited. That's it.
Okay.
It's just it's what I'm meant to do. It's kind of like an excitement.
So
you
you're
just wanna do it.
doing Billy Joel, and you, by the way, your piano playing is very Billy Joel-like, I should
Thank
say,
you.
as a consumer. You're fabulous. And he interrupts you. What's the feeling in your body at that moment when Simon Cowell says, hold it?
I was excited because I had so much confidence that he wasn't stopping me because I was bad. And I was like, there's only one reason that he could be stopping me, and it's to hear another song.
Really?
And I actually, in that moment, was excited because I was like, okay, this is a chance for me to actually play my original song, which is what I wanted to do from the start. I wanted to play the Disengage.
Yeah, and Disengage is such a wonderful song that a lot of people can relate to. So I wonder, why did you choose the Billy Joel song? What was the Billy Joel song?
She's Got Away.
She's Got Away, which is a great song, too.
Man.
But why did you choose that as opposed to the song you've written yourself, which is a great song?
Well, honestly, I had learned from watching like previous seasons that starting with a cover is smart.
Yeah, okay.
Just because it's like people hear a song that they know and then they can latch on to you a little better. So the goal was to start with She's Got Away and then be able to play an original, and it ended up working out. She's Got Away is one of the first songs that I ever learned how to play, like ever.
One of the great. So, Liza, you were describing, Roger, one of you was describing this grant thing before. As far as we understand from our colleague Aiden, who spoke to you when we booked you, Kieran Rhodes, who I think we can agree is insanely talented, has not had his grant application approved yet?
He told us that he applied. They don't make their decisions until February, so we're all just holding with fingers crossed.
God.
But he's been on the Salt Lick Sessions, which is our YouTube channel, doing performances, and we've had him in songwriting camps where he just blew everyone away and made a lot of great friends and future collaborators.
Yeah, well, nice excuse. So wait. What have they done for you? What has Salt Lake Incubator meant to young Kieran Rhodes?
It's honestly meant everything to me. I think like being at Berkeley, I met Roger like post AGT experience, but like when I realized that Roger was in my corner, it kind of meant the world to me because I have a tremendous respect for this guy.
That's great.
And once we started talking and he kind of took me under his wing, I just, felt like I kind of had a family. And the same thing with Liza. Once kind of Liza found me, she kind of pulled me right in and said, like, I'm in your corner. And, they have done so many things for me, and they continue to do so.
But that's what Salt Lake is about, which I find really fascinating, these workshops and these retreats and these writing sessions. So what does that mean? You all get together with your fellow musicians and someone gives you tips on how to do stuff?
Tell us, Roger. Go ahead.
So we have a theory that there's so much music pouring into streaming platforms like Spotify every day that a young artist needs to lead with the best possible songs. Not just good songs, but great songs. Now, Kieran writes great songs naturally, but the writing retreats are designed to help people just elevate their game and try to beat the best song they've ever written. So when they finally put something out there, the world wants to hear it. But I will say, I think what Kieran just said is maybe more important than the retreats or the grants or the YouTube channel. It's a struggle being a young artist. You're rejected most of the time. You don't know if it's ever going to happen for you. You see friends of yours who are younger than you get an opportunity that you haven't had. We were at a midnight dinner in Nashville having Nashville hot chicken sandwiches with this young artist who, to the outside world, looked successful, but she was working as a cleaning lady by day to fund her music career, and she was just about to break down. And I think Liza and I felt like, in addition to all the concrete things, a lot of it is just having people feel like you are in their corner.
Yeah.
And Liza, is it just performers, or is it everybody from producers? Who is part of this Salt Lake Incubator thing?
So the grant program is focused on artists, but then for the writing camps, we pull in producers and writers, and you don't need to be a grant recipient to be part of those collaborative experiences.
So, I'm sorry, go ahead, Roger.
Well, Liza has a leadership council she put together. Talk about them a little bit, too.
Yes, it's a volunteer council of industry professionals who are available to Salt Lake artists to help with mentorship. So if someone has a question about publishing, we have someone who's worked in publishing for 20 years. If someone has a question about TikTok, we have someone from TikTok that can help with strategy so that they feel like they have a giant team behind them and wisdom and resources.
What's our website for this if people want to learn more or make contributions or something?
SaltLickIncubator.org.
Do you have the video of Roger's mother jumping over the fence at the family farm? Kieran, why don't you walk back if you don't mind, because you're going to play. What are you going to play? Tell us first.
It's a song of mine called I've Got Superpowers.
I've Got Superpowers.
Okay.
Kieran, you can walk back there, because I want to ask Roger a question. Roger, we met you a century ago when you and Marjorie was writing about 800 columns about the wildly successful Bright Horizons, biggest childcare operation in the world, I think, or
biggest employer-supported childcare.
Okay,
Roger
fine.
called me when I couldn't get a childcare spot for my oldest daughter.
Is that
He
really
said,
true?
I got a spot over here in Cambridge. It was the first one, right in Kendall Square.
Yeah.
It was great.
And you wrote the first article ever about us, and it was largely positive.
Oh, did I criticize you?
Good
Oh,
for
no.
You had a little bit of the Marjorie Egan thing in there about how many Volvos were in the parking lot.
But then when she got the childcare slot, everything was fine.
That's
so
right.
quickly, because you want to hear Kieran again. So you did that. You were president of Berkeley. Endowment exploded. You built campuses all over the world. Why are you doing this? I mean, you're not ancient, but you're not a kid. Why are you still doing this?
Well, I feel like I've got other things that I want to do. And the thing I loved most about Berkeley was getting to know students like Kieran and try to be of help to them. And a lot of the literature about what you do when you're in your 60s, 70s, 80s is you try to help other people and pass along whatever knowledge you've got. So this is fantastic. I feel like I'm around all these young talents. I'm keeping up with music. I'm the person who makes friends with the parents of all the artists.
That's pretty good.
In fact, Kieran's mom, I thought, on America's Got Talent was part of the highlight of the show, just watching her watch him.
Well, let's hear her son, Kieran Rhodes. I've got superpowers. Here he is.
There's a girl, and she's pretty, but she never even liked me. No, she never even said a thing until she heard me sing. Well, the girl, yeah, she's pretty, but she never even saw me. No, she never even gave me time until she heard me rhyme. So you could say, in a way, that I've got superpowers. I can make you laugh and make you fall in love with words, not flowers. It's safe to say that I've got superpowers. There's a boy, and he's shy, walks alone from school each night. Never found a friend in girls or boys, and so he found one in my voice. So you could say, in a way, that I've got superpowers. I can make you smile and be your closest friend in your darkest hour. I'll say it louder. I've got superpowers. And I know I can't swing like Spider-Man. I can't save the world and get the girl like Superman. But what I can do is what I meant to. There's this thing when I sing, somehow everyone stops talking. You could hear a pin drop or hear a mouse talk. I don't know how it works. It's an epiphany, and so it's meant to be. With great power comes responsibility. So you could say, in a way, that I've got superpowers. I can make you cry and forget about your life for a couple hours. If it were up to me, I'd chalk it up as superpowers.
Oh, my God. That was amazing.
Was singer-songwriter Kieran Rhodes. He's been working with the Salt Lake Incubator under former Berkeley President Roger Brown, who founded the organization, and its president, Liza Levy. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
That was
great,
unbelievable.
Kieran. That was spectacular. Thank you so much.
Coming up after the news, GBH's Cali Crossley is here. Maybe she brought some of her famous eggnog, I'm not sure. But she's going to talk to us about housing around here, twitching while black, and Rudy Giuliani's travails, and a bunch of other stuff. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News and facebook.com/GBH News. Cali Crossley next.
Today, we say goodbye to Paul, but we will never let him go. He will no longer be with us, but he will live in our hearts forever, and Paul will never be forgotten.
Tons of tea from all around the world will once again be going into Boston Harbor at the same location where it was destroyed 250 years ago.
Welcome to hour number 2 of Boston Public Radio. He is Jim Browdy. I am Marjorie Egan. We are broadcasting live at the Boston Public Library, as we do every Friday, and we are streaming at youtube.com/GBH News and facebook.com/GBH News. Hello again, Jim.
Hey there. By the way, we're getting texts about Kieran. It's Kieran, Keiran Rhodes, Rhodes, and it's Salt Lick Incubator. That's the thing that Roger Brown founded and that Liza Levy is the president of, and he is just a wildly talented young man.
We're also getting texts about the name of Callie's eggnog, so maybe she can share that
We'll get
name.
to that. Speaking of that,
Just a second.
She's here. We're joined now by the eggnog woman herself and the deviled egg woman, GBH's Cali Crossley. Cali is the host of Under the Radar with Cali Crossley. You catch that Sunday nights right here at 89.7 at 6. You can also hear Cali commentaries on Monday for GBH's Morning Edition, and she's the co-host for GBH's brand new and fabulous Culture Show. It airs daily at 2 right here on 89.7. Hello, Cali Crossley.
Hello, how are you?
Hello.
Okay, what is the name of the eggnog, please?
The name of the eggnog is not mine. It's the one that I have discovered that is delicious. Pennsylvania Dutch.
Yeah.
Do not accept any substitutes. It is the only pre-made eggnog that is absolutely delicious. Now, repeat, do not accept any substitutes. It is very difficult to find, but it is delicious.
Do you have a liquor store suggestion? Any place that we should go?
I called around to like 5 or 6 till I hit 2. One was Liquor World in Somerville, and the other one was Save More in Cambridge.
Okay.
So before we leave that topic, sort of, you were saying very kind things about the hot chocolate at what particular establishment?
Right here.
At the Newsfeed Cafe.
Food is so good.
It's really good?
Yes.
Fabulous. Okay. Check it out, everybody. It's here. Hot chocolate at the Newsfeed.
Yeah. So, Cali Cross, we're segueing to a story that was really pretty sad. Milton Valencia did it with Vince Dixon's Boston Globe. We talked a lot about the racial wealth gap in Boston, which is massive. But we talked also a lot about how home ownership is one way to help close that gap. But Valencia and Dixon point out not necessarily, with a very sad opening to this story.
Yeah, it's really, they talked about a couple that bought a house in Dorchester, and then, instead of it's holding the value as one would think it would, it's not that it decreased, because it definitely increased from the $200,000 they paid to what, 700-some thousand. But because of the way appraisers and racist appraisers, we can say, they're still not getting the entire value of the house, which another appraiser said really should be about 900-some thousand. That's a huge gap.
Huge.
And if you're thinking, as we all have been told, that home ownership will at least close the gap and give you the most solid foundation going into the future, now you learn that if you're Black or Latino, not necessarily.
Yeah.
And I will say this, because I think I've mentioned this before on this show. This drove my dad insane. He very seldom complained about stuff. But as a guy who was in the war, and got GI benefits, which we all tout. GI benefits had a discriminatory clause. So he could not get the same level of mortgage support for any neighborhood he wanted to live in than his white counterparts. And he was bitter about that because, of course, that put back any kind of generational wealth he might have wanted to achieve for his family.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, the lead folks in this article by Milton Valencia, that's what they want to do. They're holding on to their house because they want to pass that down to their kids. So that, just so you know, this is not something that's new. This has been happening even in the programs that we have touted as being equalizers in some way for folks to gain some economic stability. It didn't work always for black folks.
Can I just add one thing to that? And my sincere apology to the woman professor at Harvard whose name is escaping me. Cornell William Brooks and this woman, he's the former president of the NAACP, he's now at Harvard. He and she wrote a brilliant piece for the Globe 4 or 5 years ago about exactly that. That so many of us believe that bill, the GI Bill, was the pathway to home ownership for veterans of color.
Everybody,
and on paper it may
wasn't.
have been, but as a matter of reality, it was far from it. And so just Google him and the topic. It's a wonderful piece.
Yeah.
But so anyway, so there are all these other, limited access to loans. I think that's the big thing, and not supporting low-income families. I mean, there is one bright spot in here. There is a development in Roxbury called Sage on Fountain, which he used as an example of what is possible. But I'm not saying it's a downside, but just everybody needed to be aware that it has some restrictions to it. If you go into the building, while it allows you a more flexibility, it's an affordable housing. It's an affordable development. I've seen it actually. It's gorgeous. There makes some restrictions about how you pass it on and how much money you can make off of it, which the people that they quote in here who were able to get into the unit are thrilled about because they could buy in Boston. And as we know, that's a problem for everybody.
By the way, can I just say it was Linda Blimes was the woman who's a professor at Harvard who co-wrote the piece.
You know what else is underscored too, which I think a lot of people worry about, and there's, I'm sure, racism involved in here too, as you get toward the end of your life and you have medical issues and you can't, mobility issues, as he talked about in this story, the husband is trying to fix up the house so his wife, who's can come back and who has mobility issues to the house. I mean, that costs a fortune.
Yes, it
so he's
does.
on a fixed income, Social Security. I mean, you think you're going to be able to get by on your Social Security, and you're not.
Yeah, no, it is. But he's determined, or they are determined, to hold on to that, to pass it on to their kids. And there were some other folks who had the same kind of determination. I mean, it may not be the be-all and end-all. Not may not. It's been documented that it isn't, but it's certainly a huge chunk of narrowing the wage gap, the wealth gap, rather.
Can I just say one more thing about this? It's a variation on a theme. Is a lot of people who are in denial want to say a lot of this is about denial of mortgages, that sort of stuff. Well, it's because that family doesn't have the same money. Google Jaylen Brown, not Celtics. Google Jaylen Brown and house. He's making a mere $60 million a year playing for the Celtics, and he tells a story about being denied either the right to see or purchase a house that he wanted to, and it surely was not because he was not eligible. And we also hear another thing that comes from this is the stories when families of color apply for a house as who they are. They often get one response, and occasionally organizations and individuals have changed only one thing, their color, just to get a sense. And lo and behold, the door is open immediately, which leads, it's not just in housing. This incredible story about this streamer on Twitch.
Yes.
This young black guy. What happened to him?
Well, Twitch is a gaming platform if people are not familiar. He changed his avatar. You usually have an avatar to navigate the digital streets, as it were. So his avatar was black because he has a thing that said his program was called Just Relax Kid, to a white guy, and he received 3 times the usual views.
For the exact same content.
For the exact same content. So he's been a Twitch creator for 9 years, had 77,000 followers, where he, normally streams this kind of thing. December 2nd, just recently, he decided he would, change his cartoon avatar to a white man with a beard. And this is something people often do. They change their avatar. So he was, before that, 300 to 800 views per stream. And then one stream after he changed it, 1,600 views, another 7,900 views, another over 22,000 views.
Yeah.
And he himself says, what the hell, because you're a white dude with a beard now? He said he's gotten hate mail and criticism from both black and white folks saying, for calling out the racism. But hey, he told the interviewers that he was hurt by the realization and he didn't want people feeling shame just for being who they are. This is Avatar, people. This is crazy.
I just want to mention one more thing. It's kind of old now, but I remember reading it a while back in the Atlantic. Ta-Nehisi Coates wrote a piece about reparations, and he was talking about housing discrimination.
Mm-hmm.
I learned so much stuff that I had no idea about people getting these crooked mortgages, basically, where you missed a payment for 2 days, and they come and take your house, and all this awful stuff. And it's really a good read, because I think people hear the word reparations and it's right away. Oh yeah, you're going to give everybody money?
Yeah.
And then you realize why people are in the situation historically that they're in.
Yeah.
And
some of that is covered. What's the name of the fabulous series our colleagues did here about housing? What's that called? Priced Out.
Priced Out.
Yes.
Gosh,
really
that
great.
was Stephanie Lydon.
Yes,
that was
really
a great series with that. Remember the poor lady that was living in her car? And she was like 75 years old?
Yep. No.
Okay, so can we stay with our doom and because we're going to get happy in a couple of minutes.
That's right.
Okay.
Here's a survey. This really is frightening, at least to me. Gen Zers, half of them, are most likely to pick someone in life with whom they share financial values rather than physical or spiritual connection.
Why are you surprised? They want to be able to buy a house before they're 50.
I know, but is that not? But when you're young, and that's
it's a
what
different
comes
world
first.
for being young now.
Okay, well, let's hear what Cali has to say. What do you
it's
think
almost
of this?
half of the people surveyed in a 2,740 person adult survey. They did this in February and March. I actually thought, wow, this is kind of smart, because some other decisions they're making, not so good. So I thought,
me too.
No, you didn't.
Yes,
No,
I
you
did.
didn't.
I did think this was kind of smart. Sit down and have a conversation. Do you know, not guidance counselors, marriage counselors make their money off people who never talked about this.
That's right.
And then everything blows up around the money.
I didn't say you should never talk about it. I don't think you should lead with it.
I don't know.
Can I have the password to your checking account?
It's one thing. You may think it's great to marry the football hero when you're 17.
Yeah.
But when you're 30 and you're trying to put your life together.
Exactly.
And,
Wait a second. I thought you told me the football hero you dated is a billionaire now.
No. That was someone from Stanford.
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry.
I went back to my reunion,
okay.
and I was horrified to learn that I had, he was a surfer dude. He was.
The surfer dude was the one who's a billionaire?
I thought he wasn't very smart, Callie. I was wrong.
Yeah. Well, one of my exes is a college president. Let's move on.
Is that true? You never told us that.
Oh,
Of course I didn't tell you that before. Anyway.
Doesn't that really kill you?
Yeah.
One more depressing story, and then we're going to get at least a little bit. Well, I don't know if it's depressing, because actually justice is finally being meted out. Rudy Giuliani, we talked to somebody about this the other day, who was America's mayor, everybody knows, during and after 9/11 for a while, was a front runner for the presidency because of that. To say he has fallen from grace, he is almost, it's not single-handedly, along with Trump, they disparaged those two They brutalized these two women, volunteer people to count votes, accused them of cooking the books on votes down there in Georgia. They testified the most brilliant testimony and moving in front of the January 6th committee, and now they're suing him for millions of dollars. Before you talk about the case again for a second, it is a fall from grace.
Wow.
Almost unlike, it's really incredible. This is the same. He was prosecuting people before he was mayor as the U.S. attorney for exactly the kind of crap that he's maybe going to spend the rest of his life in jail for.
And by his own hand, I have to say.
That is totally right.
Because with this case, in which he accused Ruby Freeman and her daughter, Wandrea Moss, of shuffling around ballots illegally, and he said he picked it up from the Gateway Pundit, which is a conservative online website, and just repeated it. But he didn't just repeat it. He repeated it all the time. And then after he got in trouble for this, and after these lawsuits have been filed, he still is saying, I told the truth. It has been demonstrated over and over again. You did not tell the truth. This did not happen. They did not do it. What in the world?
Well, it's worse than that.
You know,
he already acknowledged in this same proceeding that he had fraudulently described their behavior, and he's still, well, obviously he's suffering from something. But, you know, it is, I know we said it the other day, but it's worth saying again, those who cozy up to Donald Trump, with almost no exceptions, see their lives ruined.
Yeah.
Whether it's jail or disgrace or ultimately being found liable, as I assume he's going to be, for probably tens of millions of dollars that he doesn't have. There's nobody prospers from a relationship with Trump except Trump.
Well, somebody must prosper because, as a friend of mine who counsels a Fortune 500 company leader says, if there is no benefit, you don't continue down the path. So there must be getting something from it.
Well, there's a short-term benefit.
Even if it's emotional, you know, that's all I'm saying. 20 times he kept saying this since August 2023. Besmirching these people.
I think they just get away with lies now so easily. People just buy these lies. I mean, you know, the Comer there and going after
Chair of the
Biden,
Oversight
talking
Committee.
about the corrupt this and all the terrible millions of
Well,
dollars.
Rudy Giuliani's not getting away with it.
Now, what's interesting
he's got a criminal proceeding in Georgia,
Well,
and he's got
I would
this.
argue Donald Trump is getting away with it. He just keeps lying about the same things.
But
and
here's what's
people in
fascinating
Congress-
to me. His attorney does not refute the facts of the case or the emotional testimony. They just say it's not commensurate with what he did. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
Well, you know, they didn't even put a witness on. Not only did Giuliani not testify, even though the day before the last day of testimony, he said he was going to testify and didn't. They didn't put one witness on
And
in
remember
this case.
when he was
the
talking about
defense.
how the mother and daughter were passing drugs between each other, and the daughter says it was a ginger mint.
Right.
And she talks about how she couldn't come out of her house, and she was afraid to go
they
to
got
the
death
supermarket.
threats. I think they still got still getting death threats.
Well, I hope they get every cent.
I do too.
Which still doesn't compensate for what he and Trump did to the lives of these women.
No,
Sure
but you wouldn't be able to fix up your house. If you get $40 million, you'd be able to fix up your house.
That's true. That's a good point.
That would do something for you.
No, that's a good point. You know, or move.
Yeah, exactly, or move.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to make of this thing with all the spicy foods and the pickles, I guess, or one of the things that have been the dishes ordered most this year with personal Grubhub 2023 delivered report.
This is nationally. Everybody's ordering Grubhub.
Right.
What is the
I don't
most
even know
ordered
what
things?
spicy potato soft tacos are. I've never had those.
Now, well, that would be a soft taco with spicy potatoes on it, but I never had it either.
Neither me.
Let me just, full disclosure, I boycott Grubhub because they screwed up an order and did not, in my opinion, have a proper response to a consumer, not like
I would not
DoorDash and
mess
some of
with
the
Cali
others.
Crossley,
So at every opportunity, I try to tell people to stay away from Grubhub. Having said that...
Hold on. Tell us your pocketbook story when you got a bad...
Yeah, Prada.
Yeah, you got a bad Prada bag.
Yes, and they give you a key. When you buy a real Prada bag, you get a little key that you should be able to take back anywhere and get it fixed. So something was wrong. I sent it back. Well, no, that was a seasonal thing, blah, 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 da-da-da. I said, I'm sorry. What do I have this key for? What are you bothering? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Never again will I buy Prada. But we've digressed from the consumer conversation.
Yes. So what are the most popular dishes that are ordered on Grubhub?
Spicy chicken sandwich, spicy tuna roll, hot and sour soup, and drunken noodles. And there's a theme of spicy because there's a little spice in drunken noodles too, and a little bit in hot and sour soup, not overwhelmingly. So obviously, in the food predictions of spice being a leading factor in what people are interested in, that's fascinating. We should also note that this Grubhub report is part of a trend of all of these companies going back and collating all of your data to say what you ate, saw, did the last year.
You get your personal. A lot of these apps
right, that's what I'm
send
saying.
you year end what your personal behavior was.
This is personal
Well, this
too.
is everybody.
Yes,
but they do for you.
Yeah. But they send it personally, then they aggregate, well, what did everybody, the 91,000 customers, minus me, order through Grubhub?
Can I tell you in a moment of seriousness, I don't mean this as a joke. I can't tell you how much I love that you have that attitude and that it never goes away.
No,
It's really,
I don't care.
Really,
They never, means
in my
nothing.
opinion, you live longer with that kind of
That's what I
attitude.
say.
That is
You know,
really
take your
healthy.
grudge to
It's
the
really good.
I give up. I give up too easily.
But how satisfying is it to say?
Yeah.
How satisfying was it to say that?
Yeah, very satisfying.
Exactly. That's my point. I mean, it really is. You get it off, and I feel pretty good about that too.
Yeah, it's very time consuming.
Interesting to me also, there's a lot of late night coffee orders, which you would think people could make coffee at home.
Exactly. I thought that was weird. I thought pickles?
Yeah.
Pickles? That's
Pickles are a
huge?
big thing.
Pickles.
Pickles are a
French
big
fries
thing.
are the biggest side thing, but
That's
pickles
true.
are pretty big too.
But wouldn't you just
I get
buy a
pickles.
bunch of pickles and leave them in the refrigerator? I
You
mean,
know what? Because I think it's like you don't know you want it, and then all of a sudden, damn, I want a
That's
pickle.
exactly, and you can just get it. But,
Yeah,
Okay,
right.
so
And
Jared
Hawaiian
is following.
pizza? Do you want pizza with pineapple?
No,
I don't,
The worst.
but other
Do
people
I.
do.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Okay, we done with this?
I guess so.
Okay, fine.
All right.
Jared's going to be here for a minute. So Jared, if he wants, can talk about the culture
Yeah,
show,
that's
which is
right.
coming up at 2. What are you doing this weekend?
On Under the Radar, we have our annual fun 1 hour spinning of the holiday
this,
tunes with Mike Wilkins. The quirkiest, the weirdest tunes, the weirdest Frosty the Snowman you have ever heard.
Yeah.
I was like, what is this? Another personal favorite from this year's curation, 34 years he's been doing it, Hating You for Christmas, and an acid rock Deck the Halls. Deck the halls, deck the halls, deck the halls.
In your honor, Cali Crossley,
have a little
we
sound.
decided to pull a clip from Hating You for Christmas.
Oh,
It's by
yay!
Everclear, a rock band from Portland. Here it is. You know, the kind of person who would like that kind of song is
It's
the
a
kind of
breakup
person
song.
who would hold
Yeah.
a lifelong
Yeah.
grudge against Grubhub.
That
You know
is
what I mean?
That is true.
Exactly.
That is true.
I think it's
Do your
extremely-
customers right. You know, if you mess up the order, that's your whole business. I'm sorry. Don't come back to me with some namby-pamby response. Do something about it.
So what do you do when you go to the drive-through and they give you? Do you wait at the drive-through to make sure they haven't screwed
Yes.
that up?
I try to do that.
I
Yes,
always
yes.
do
Because
that.
50-50
Yeah.
shot, they've
Right.
screwed it up.
But you
Because
know
if
what?
they don't give you the sauce with the McNuggets,
Yeah.
and then you gotta,
And you don't want to have to get out
how
of the car.
upsetting is that? Really?
Drive-through, then you have to walk
Right.
back to the
Exactly.
drive-through,
Yes.
right? And they don't like to wait
But
on you.
I
when
will
you're-
say this, that in those instances, if you care to, usually people don't care to, that's the reason you went through the drive-through. If you call back and say, hey, I drove away from here and you didn't give me, you know, people are responsive in the way that you should be if you have a business involving food. If you don't know how to do that, Grubhub, get out of the business.
God.
Okay.
All
okay.
right, then.
Cali Crossley, I'll
We'll
remember
be
not
listening.
to.
I love this show, by the way. The one, I love this.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
so
so great.
It's really fun.
Mike's fabulous.
It's really fun.
Okay.
Cali Crossley.
Thank you, Kelly.
very-
Thank you.
Thank you
Bye.
very much. We've been speaking with Cali Crossley, host of Under the Radar with Cali Crossley, which you can catch Sunday nights right here, 89.7 GBH at 6 o'clock. You can hear Cali's commentaries Monday mornings for GBH's Morning Edition. And Cali is also co-host of GBH's The Culture Show, which airs daily at 2 on 89.7 GBH. In fact, we're going to talk with Jared Bowen. Up next, he's going to tell us what's going on the Culture Show this afternoon, right where it starts right after our show. One very recognizable cartoon mouse is headed to public domain in 2024. That story, plus all the latest from the world of arts and culture, is the host of the new Culture Show. That is Jared Bowen. He is next, 89.7 GBH, Boston Public Radio, broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. By the way, not only is Callie's annual show that she just described with these weird Christmas songs great, the Oedipus thing on Christmas Eve
is great too.
Is really, really, really different and fun. You won't have even heard most of the songs. It's great. He's great. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan here at the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News and facebook.com/GBH News. Joined now by Jared Bowen. He is GBH News Executive Arts Editor and host of The Culture Show. I think this is week 2 of the Daily Thing, which airs daily at 2 right here on 89.7. Hello, Jared Bowen.
Hello, Jim Browdy.
Hello, Jared Bowen. So let's start with...
Wait. How's this thing gone? I actually listened to the show,
I know,
by the way.
I heard you say you listened. That was very nice of you.
How do you feel? I think it's
great. I think we're having a ball. It is so much fun. We are able to talk about things that we all love, and I love doing it. It's been a blast, actually.
It's great.
The Tea Party thing yesterday was great.
I know, and with the fact that it wasn't even called the Tea Party, it was rebranded in the 1800s.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
I'm always stunned. I'm constantly stunned by everything I don't know. It's very humiliating and embarrassing. Anyway, tell us about Oppenheimer. It's been a controversial release in Japan, which of course makes sense because of the atomic bombs at Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Well, of course, this was a huge film, Oppenheimer was, when it came out, just along with Barbenheimer. And so it played around the world, as most films do. Most films now go into wide release almost simultaneously, sometimes even before internationally. But Japan, as you might imagine, had huge issues with this film, primarily because they didn't like the point of view and the fact that the effects of Hiroshima and Nagasaki were not depicted thoroughly or to their satisfaction in terms of acknowledging the hundreds of thousands of lives lost and the repercussions of that. Christopher Nolan, who was the director, explained that he was doing this from the point of view of Robert Oppenheimer, so he wouldn't have seen the explosion, he wouldn't have witnessed it, but if you watch the film, you do see how he has to ultimately embrace it and come to terms with it and reconcile what he did as the father of the atomic bomb. So for all of those reasons, it didn't play in Japan. However, they have finally decided to release it sometime in 2024. But interestingly, because I mentioned Barbie and Barbenheimer coming out at the same time, to leverage that whole Barbenheimer concept, Warner Brothers was releasing memes of Margot Robbie as Barbie with her head with the atomic bomb instead of a blonde haircut. And yeah, so Japan obviously had major issues with that as well. And
That's
even
kind of creepy.
Warner Brothers' own internal office space in Japan reached out and told them how insensitive they were being, so they had to dial that back. So across the spectrum, there were huge concerns in Japan about how both of these films were rolled out.
I haven't seen either yet, I'm embarrassed to say.
I've seen Oppenheimer.
Are they streaming?
Yeah, they're on TV
I think
now.
Barbie starts it is mid-December.
I think.
Is Oppenheimer streaming? Do we know?
I think it is.
Whatever, we're going to check.
I think it is, but you know something? It is long, but I thought it was worth it. I really did.
Well, I think in hindsight, I realized I made the mistake of seeing both films in one day,
Yeah,
as
that's a
many
lot.
people did. And I started with Barbie, which was probably not the thing to do to bounce out of Barbie and then go into the very grim Oppenheimer.
It is very grim, but it was really good, and it's a great depiction of American history. I mean, there were a few things that people griped about, but I don't know. I thought it was pretty good.
What's the name of the actor who everybody says is the best performance, like in history? What's the name of the guy who plays Oppenheimer?
Cillian Murphy.
Cillian Murphy, yeah.
Yeah.
He's not the guy from, what's the name of that show? Which was also great. Set in like the 1900s. Peaky Blinders. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, John.
John knows
what
everything.
What would we do without John?
Well, we would be very embarrassed. We'd be
we are
embarrassed
very embarrassed.
Regularly.
Needless to say.
Without John whispering in our ear.
Okay, so Mickey Mouse is now in the well, actually, this is not true. Some of Mickey Mouse is now in the public domain. Before you tell us what that means, tell us what it means. What does it mean to be in the public domain?
Public domain means that your copyright has expired or you never had a copyright, and so anybody who wants to publish the work or have some creative license on the work can do it. And this is kind of a fun time of year because we look at what copyrights expire in 2024, and as of January 1, the very earliest version of Mickey Mouse from Steamboat Willie goes into the public domain.
He doesn't talk in that, right?
He doesn't.
I don't think so. Here's I think he whistles, if I remember. I've seen it. Here's a little bit of sound. I don't know what sound, but here's sound from the 1928 classic, Steamboat Willie. Well, that really helped. Okay, so Mickey Mouse whistles in this thing. And so is there like a 90, I did the math, is 95 years the amount of time?
It's 95 years. It's either 90 or 95.
Well, it's 95.
Yeah, 95 years. And it actually changed during Mickey Mouse's lifetime.
Oh, it did? So to speak.
It was extended by Congress at one point. But this is huge. Everybody who pays attention to this considers it huge because Disney is so protective of their material. And so this will be kind of a test for how far you can go with this. Because again, if you look at Steamboat Willie from 95 years ago, he is not the Mickey Mouse that most people associate with Disney today, with the bow tie and the huge ears and everything that is so iconic about that company and the advertising and the representations of that company. This is an earlier iteration. But there are also laws about what you can do when a copyright has expired. So you can't necessarily take somebody's logo for your own and try to have an avenue into the company.
Could you use Mickey Mouse if you start a business and you want Mickey Mouse as he appeared in, or as it appeared, whatever it is, in Steamboat Willie? Could you use that on a
T-shirt?
Yeah, can you, and sell it?
It's my understanding that you can.
So let me ask you another question about this, which you're a lawyer, correct?
Yeah, absolutely not.
Exactly. So let me ask you this
But
question.
you are.
Here's an Associated Press story. It says this: January 1, 2024 has long been circled on the calendars of public domain watchers because of this. But some say it serves to show how overlong it takes for U.S. works to go public, 95 years. And many property, this is what I found interesting, which I never thought about, with less pedigree than Willie or Minnie, meaning Minnie Mouse, can disappear or be forgotten with their copyrights murky. And I nodded like you're nodding, but then I say to myself, and this is the legal question that I should know the answer to, can't somebody who's got a copyright that is less than 60 years old voluntarily choose to put their work in the public domain? Can't they do that?
Well, they can, but nobody's going to do that because then you don't get the royalties from it.
But they're saying, but what happens if you're a lesser artist than, well, Walt, I don't know if he's an artist, but then if you're a lesser whatever creator than Walt Disney, the point here is you get, quote, you disappear or forgotten. So release your product, right?
Or keep getting the royalties for as long as you want. I think what needs to happen, because I read that too and I found that really interesting, is maybe we need to have people who are excavating material over the last 90 years and looking at what has been forgotten, what stories can really surface today, because how great would that be?
That would be great.
But some of the other copyrights that are expiring, by the way, in 2024, Peter Pan, the play, because this is where it also gets nuanced too, because you could have a film and it could be one version of a film, but if, say, you assign music to it, because there is a Charlie Chaplin film that it's also expiring next year, if the published version of that film with music doesn't necessarily, the copyright doesn't necessarily expire. So you can have different iterations of things. I'm starting to make this really confusing. I'm realizing. But basically,
you're
Peter
making
Pan,
it very confusing. Thank you. Go ahead.
But books by Agatha Christie, D.H. Lawrence, All Quiet on the Western Front, Mac the Knife, but only the German version, because the English version was licensed later, goes into the public domain. And you know what big cartoon character comes out of public domain, or goes into the public domain in 2025?
It had to be 1930, right? Because 95 years ago, what cartoon existed besides Mickey Mouse 95 years ago?
Dumbo?
I didn't know that he was this old.
Who?
This character who likes spinach.
Popeye?
Popeye!
Oh my
I
God.
would have guessed, actually. I
Oh
would
my
have
God. I didn't know Popeye was that old either.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Olive Oil's much younger. That's why you were
Much younger.
surprised. We dated a
You talk
younger
about
woman.
Marilyn Quayle. People remember Jan Quayle's wife.
Sure.
Marilyn, she had the olive oil hair.
Yeah.
Remember that? Everybody always criticized her for the
I didn't
olive
know
oil.
that.
Yeah, flips up. That's very distressing. Sometimes my hair
Isn't
flips
that
up.
a page boy? I thought
find
it's called a page
No, sometimes
boy.
your hair just flips up.
It does?
Mine does that too, and I
Wow.
find it very, very upsetting.
Mine did during COVID.
Yeah,
when I
that's
couldn't
right.
cut it for
Flipped
7
up.
months.
Duckbill. Yeah, it's a duckbill. It's
Okay,
not...
enough with
Tigger,
Minnie
Okay.
Mouse.
By the way,
So
Tigger.
By the way, I never even
Tigger's in
liked.
the
Did you
public
like
domain.
Mickey Mouse? Were you big Mickey? No. Donald Duck, I love. By
Exactly.
The way.
Yeah.
Exactly, meaning the same deal
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah.
How about you?
I like Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Oh, so do I.
But that's
Sure.
not a Disney character. Who's your favorite Disney
Natasha
character?
and Boris.
No, we know who they are. Do you know who they call Natasha and Boris at another radio station?
You and me.
You and me.
Yeah.
That's right.
I know
You can
that
guess
too.
what the radio station. You knew that?
Yes, I
You
did.
knew that? You can guess what the radio station
Hey,
is.
I like Natasha.
I do too. I like Boris, so there you go.
Okay.
So real women have curves. And by the way,
they're coming
some of the stars
here.
are going to perform for us on
January
January 5th
5th, yes.
at the library. Go ahead.
This is a new production at the American Repertory Theater. I saw it on Wednesday night, and it's really, really fabulous. It's incredibly special, I would say, because it's got heart, it has realness, it's got complexity, and it all pulses in this really engrossing story about the lives of immigrants. So this is based on a 1993 play by Josefina Lopez. It was then turned into a 2002 film. If people didn't see the film, it's also notable because it really launched the career of America Ferrera.
Yeah.
And now it has been adapted into a musical at the ART. And this sets us down in 1987, Reagan's United States, out in California, and you have a group of women who are working in a factory making dresses. And they're dealing with issues of immigration and what this means for their families. These are women who are working really, really hard, and as one of the opening lines says, their bodies are cramping up, they're sewing on their feet, they're working overtime to not lose their mind. But they enjoy it. There's so much love and humor in this show, and this is what makes it literally sing. And there comes to be a conflict with one of the women and her daughter, Anna, who sees opportunity for herself and gets a scholarship and wants to go to Columbia University, but has a great difficulty in going home to her family and telling them that she wants to leave. She wants to go across the country, and she's going to leave what they've been really working on and building. And that's the heart of this show, is this sort of imposed guilt and this imposed sense of family and heritage and how you all stay together. And the backdrop, which has changed from the film, is that her family is undocumented. So she's also contending with that as there is an immigration raid in a nearby factory. So again, a lot of very serious, heavy issues that are deeply resonant today, but in a really glorious production that has so much life. And the title, Real Women Have Curves, is because her mother tells her that maybe she's eating too much, and it's kind of talking to her in that way.
When's the ART moving?
They are moving, I think, this seems like an aggressive timeline, but maybe in 2 years they have their new building.
Alston.
To Alston, yeah.
From Harvard Square.
I also want to say, Justina Machado, who plays the mother, you would recognize her from 6 Feet Under. She is just glorious in this production. It's, just an emotionally wrenching performance, really, really captivating. I enjoyed this so much. It's one of those shows that I haven't stopped thinking about, again, seeing it 2 nights ago now.
You know, speaking of haven't stopped thinking about, I saw Ryan Landry's going to join us for 5 minutes a little later. It's like a bad penny. He will not go away. Every time we do a show, he shows up. Ryan Landry, who is this genius, and he is a genius. His Christmas production this year is the Rocky Menorah Christmas Show. And I have to say, I don't have strong opinions about theater like you do. There were a couple of cameos by some non-professional actors that I thought were as good as I've ever seen in a performance.
Very embarrassing for me.
Have any idea who I'm talking about or no?
I think you're talking about Boris and Natasha.
Exactly.
Yes. As puppets.
Boris and Natasha.
As puppets, yeah. And
So,
I'm swearing at the top
How
of
do
my
you
lungs.
feel about the performance of the two puppets voiced by Marjorie Egan, the foul-mouthed Marjorie Egan,
It's terrible.
and me,
Ryan
Jim
made
Browdy?
me do it.
What would you say?
You mean the whip-wielding?
The whip-wielding Marjorie Egan.
I'm all in leather.
Screaming
It's really
obscenities.
embarrassing.
Yeah.
And where was I during that part? I was doubled over, laughing. I was in I'm sure I was bright red. Totally just flustered to hear those words coming out of Marjorie
By the way,
Egan's puppet.
it is as bad, the language
I
is
know.
as foul
One of my daughters
as
is
you
going
can
tonight. She had no idea I had anything to do with this, and I had to pre-warn her that mother does not usually speak like this.
Before you tell us what you thought of the show, almost as much fun as watching the show. Ryan and the performers are brilliant. Again, he'll be here for a couple of minutes a little bit later in the show. The fun watching Jamie and Zoe bent over, literally not being able to sit up straight because they were laughing so hard, was like almost a show within a show. It was our whole team, and Jared and Jen Moore and Azita Garamani, we all went, and it was spectacular. What'd you think of the show?
It was our holiday party. But first, I want to hear a little bit more from you about why is Marjorie screaming obscenities? Why is she carrying a whip?
She's a little upset in the show because, and this is totally fictional.
Yeah, totally fictional.
BS.
Because Jim never shuts
She's
up.
a little upset
That's
because
why.
I interrupted her a few times in the show.
I can't get a sentence out of my mouth, and it was based on real life. We would point out that Ryan has done this theme twice in a row now, right? The Jim
but more
never shuts up
expansively
theme.
this time.
Yeah, I go to places, I go to places like friends of mine and stuff like that. That's so the whole night is Can you tell Jim to stop interrupting? Can you tell Jim to stop talking so much? I hear this all the time.
Well,
And
you
my
took care
standing
of me in
line
the show.
Is if I had $1 for every time someone told me Jim Browdy to shut up, I could have retired like about 10 years ago. But alas,
Well, you don't have $1 for every time,
I
so you
don't.
can't retire.
That's right.
And that's what it is. So what do you think of the whole thing beyond just the brilliant work of Marjorie Egan and me?
Yeah, no, this is a really great show. To remind people who Ryan Landry is and what the Gold Dust Orphans do, are they take these stories that we know, like the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and turns it into a holiday extravaganza, or he's done shows like Peter Pan's the Upending Peter Pan, or Mary Poppins, Upending Mary Poppins. With this endless creativity, you're sitting in the Iron Wolf Theater at the South Boston Lithuanian Hall, and prior to that, Machine in the Fenway. And you're seeing all of these great scenic backdrops and props and costumes that this tight team has conjured to render this story.
Really clever.
So, to quickly explain, the Rocky Menorah Christmas Show is taking Brad and Janet from Rocky Horror Show, except it's Brad Keebler and Janet Winke, and they're coming to an understanding that there are other religions and other holiday celebrations unlike theirs. And they embrace that, unlike Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is in the show and is waging a diabolical war against liberals. And so when they arrive at Temple Schmempel, where instead of finding Frankenfurter, they find Mrs. Grinchley, played by Ryan Landry, all of the zaniness unfolds, and we help understand the story by Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan in puppet form.
I want to say two things. One, the performers are, this is a bawdy, burlesque kind of
Not
thing.
for kids.
And so, well, not only not for kids, a lot of people think when we say that, well, it's sort of amateur.
No.
This could be on Broadway as easily at the Lithuanian Hall. We have some photos, actually. Can you pop them up? That's the whole cast.
That's great.
That is Ryan in the green hair, Mrs. Grinchley. Don't you dare miss this show. And he looks totally beautiful. The other thing I think I should say, just to be clear, when I was talking about Jamie and Zoe, and Marjorie and Jared, you can confirm this, one of the reasons they were doubled over is not only so funny, they were totally drunk.
Yeah.
Is that
that's not
Jamie,
true.
is that true or is that true?
You're always calling.
Totally, they were both,
okay.
they didn't drive, let's be clear.
Okay.
But they were, what do you mean okay? But they were totally drunk.
Yeah, I don't have the breathalyzer app on my phone, but I didn't need it that night to know that.
Totally drunk.
So I want to hear about this before you go, because I was really, this Mary Kay Letourneau story, people may remember this in the late 90s. This teacher was arrested for having sex with her 12-year-old student.
She went to jail, didn't she?
Yes, she went to jail where she gave birth to the first of their two children. But then they ended up getting married. So there's a movie based on this, May, December. I hope it's good. Oh, we should have some sound.
We do.
Yeah, let's play a little clip from this. This stars Julianne Moore, Natalie Portman, and Charles Melton. Here's a little trailer. You can hear Julianne Moore and Natalie Portman.
What would make a 36-year-old woman have an affair with a 7th grader?
People, they see me as a victim. I wanted it.
Why would you want to play someone who you think is a bad person?
It's the moral gray areas that are interesting.
He's getting on my last nerve. He's just everywhere I look.
What'd you think?
So if it sounded cheesy and campy and weird, that it's all of those things really well crafted, I have to say. So first of all, the Golden Globe nominations came out this week, and each of the leads that we just heard there all got nominations. And this is a film that looks at that story of Mary Kay Letourneau, but in this very different manner. So we have Julianne Moore playing Gracie, who is the teacher. In this case, she's had an affair with a 7th grader whom she met in a pet store. And then she goes to jail and then returns home to Savannah, Georgia, where she marries him and they have children. And years later, along comes Elizabeth, played by Natalie Portman, who's a television actress, and she's going to portray her on screen, and Julianne Moore's character welcomes her into her home to understand how this unfolded. And then it becomes this very, very fascinating look as Natalie Portman is trying to assume and observe this character that Julianne Moore plays. And so over the course of the film, she is taking on the mannerisms and the characteristics. But you're also starting to realize that she's a television actress who probably isn't all that talented because she's going a little overboard with this. So there is I would argue, there's a high degree of camp to this, but done as tastefully as camp can be done. And again, all with this backdrop of this this terrible subject matter because Charles Melton plays Joe, who we now find at 36. He was the former 7th grader. And of all of the characters and how we see them unravel as this time in their lives is being examined on this film, it's his performance, the real actor, Charles Melton's performance, but as a character, how we see him devolve as he really, for the first time in his life, it seems, comes to terms with this. It's very captivating. He's also,
By the way,
at 36, about to be an empty nester because their kids are about to go off to college.
Yeah.
I want you to know that Jamie just typed me a note, and he said, Jared told me before the show that he, capital letters, loved this movie because it was so effed up. Was that your formal review of this or not?
See what happens when I see the Ryan Landry show and Marjorie gets into my head.
I know. God, it was disgraceful.
I will never tell Jamie another thing.
I don't tell him anything.
Don't tell him.
No, don't tell me anything.
You can't
by the way,
keep
if he
his
says it, tell him he's lying. That's the way he is. Wait, 2 things. One, Natalie Portman's a Harvard kid, right?
She is.
And speaking of local, Iowa Debris from
The Bear
was nominated for a Golden Globe, too, for Best Female Actor in a thing. And she was just...
Yeah.
We got to get her back. She was fabulous.
You know who else is from here, or at least from, I think it's Amherst, is the guy who plays the brother, or the cousin in that show, who had...
he is on... Yeah. I can't think of his name. Yeah, the tall, thin guy with the beard. He is brilliant. I don't know what his name is.
Who had a major character evolution in this last season.
Yeah. Okay.
So what's going on in the Culture Show this afternoon, please?
I remember.
Okay.
We're going to be talking about Netflix. Big deal. Netflix just... By the way, May December is released on Netflix. You can watch it there. They are starting to release statistics, that's a word I can never say.
What's the word again? I didn't hear it. What was it?
That word.
Okay, thank you.
They're going to be releasing numbers now about which shows are most popular, how many hours people spend streaming, what films are most popular, because this really comes out of the actors' strike and the Screen Actors Guild striking and saying, you need to start sharing this so we can pay our people fairly.
Oh. So is that mandated by contract that they do this?
They're the first out of the gate. We've not seen any other streamer do this. We'll talk about the films that have been added to the Library of Congress. And then Mariah Carey, is it really her song, All I Want for Christmas Is You? Because she's being sued again by a group that's saying that this is copyright infringement.
Huh.
Wow. She won the last time.
Well, it never quite made that far.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was decided. Yeah. No.
Huh. We'll give you all the details that you need to know on the Culture Show at 2 o'clock.
She's made it her own song.
She has made it her own song.
By the way,
she was
Josh...
in Boston, wasn't she?
What?
Wasn't she just around here?
Monday night.
Yeah.
Monday night, yeah.
She went to Strega afterwards. There's a photograph in the Globe or somewhere. In any case, Josh, who's watching on YouTube talking about Rocky Menorah, a Christmas show, said, wait, those were puppets?
Okay.
That's
Jared Bowen,
good,
thank you very much.
Jared, great. Listen at 2 o'clock today.
We've been speaking with GBH News Executive Arts Editor and host of the Culture Show, Jared Bowen. And it does, as Jim just said, air daily at 2 o'clock. That means as soon as we are done, right here on GBH 89.7. And Cali Crossley is also on with Jared and Edgar B. Herg III. Okay. Coming after a quick break, Boston Globe business columnist Shirley Young. We're going to talk to her about this dust-up with Mayor Rue involving this electeds-only Christmas party and a bunch of other news. Shirley Young is next. You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Brady and Marjorie, and we're live at the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News, facebook.com/GBH News. We're joined now in person, actually, by Boston. What do you mean, actually? We're joined now in person by Boston Globe business columnist Shirley Young. She also hosts the fabulous podcast, Say More with Shirley Young. New episodes drop every Thursday, and she joins us weekly. Hello, Shirley Young.
Hi, Jim. Hi, Marjorie.
Hey there.
Hello.
Hey there.
So, Shirley Young, on Tuesday, this email went out from Michelle Wu's office. She's, of course, the mayor of the city of Boston, to the full city council, inviting councilors to an annual Electeds of Color holiday party at the Parkman House. 7 members of the council are white. 6 of the members of the council are people of color. And about 15 minutes later, one of her staff members sent out a second message apologizing for this gaffe. This story...
Wait, you should say with the gaffe. The gaffe is sending it to politicians who are not of color.
Yeah, that's right, because 7 were white and 6 were people of color. So this story went bananas. It was on Drudge. It was all over...
New York Post.
New York Post, Daily Mail. It was on television locally, Fox. It was on WCVB in Boston, I believe, as well. So tell us about the dust-up and what you had to say about it.
Well, it's crazy, first of all. You know, okay, first of all, it's unfortunate the email went out to people who were not supposed to go.
Right.
But think about it this way. If Mayor Walsh, you know, he's Irish American, you know, he's Irish descent. If he had decided to have Irish Americans over at the Parkman House, nobody would complain. If Mayor Menino decided to have, you know, of Italian descent, decided to have Italian Americans, no one would complain. In fact, if Mayor Wu or Mayor Menino or Mayor Walsh decided to have women, elected women,
exactly,
only women electeds. For a holiday party, no one would complain, but they're complaining now because it's Mayor Wu, the first elected mayor of color, a woman of color, to run Boston. They're complaining now. And I also was thinking more about this. Let's say this gaffe happened 5 years ago. I don't think anybody would care either.
Really?
If Mayor Wu, because, you know why?
Because
she wasn't in power.
Well, no, right, because now there are a lot of elected...
Exactly.
There are a lot of people of color who are elected in power.
Yes.
So white people are scared. So that's why it's a big, quote-unquote, big news story now.
Here's a little bit of what she had to say to CBS Boston TV defending this holiday party for elected officials of color.
This has been a long-standing tradition. It was my turn to host. It's happened every single year, and multiple other parties that everyone has been invited to. So, for example, Monday we're hosting the holiday party that the city hosts every single year, and inviting all of the city council, the state legislature, all of our elected officials, along with our cabinet, just to thank everyone and celebrate for the holidays. So there are many, many invitations out there.
So your analysis is that it's because she's a woman of color that this
it's a double standard.
Yeah, yeah.
A complete
also
double
low-hanging
standard.
fruit. When you read this story, did you not know that this is what was going to happen? By the way, I didn't know it was a long-standing tradition, and even without knowing that, my attitude was, okay, fine, as you say.
Right,
there are lots of different...
And she's having other parties, too.
Exactly.
Where everyone is invited.
But it's so easy for people who like to prey on these kinds of things that it was obvious to me it would have the life that it did.
And you can understand, being a former Herald reporter, that, I mean, this story was catnip for the
the Herald's,
I mean, how many times do you get to say, Mayor Wu does not want that white Christmas, you know?
Yeah. But the thing is, you point out, I mean, I'm in a women's group. I mean, I wouldn't want any men in the women's group.
Right.
I'm sure if you're a person of color, and often you are the only person of color in your particular organization, because we haven't done enough in terms of hiring enough people in power. I mean, so why can't you be around people that can talk about similar life experiences? I mean, it just seems insane.
It does. And I was thinking more, are people upset because it's at the Parkman House, city-owned property? Maybe she should have had it not at the Parkman House, but now I'm of the... I think it's fine. I think it's fine. I think, you know, if she had women, if there was a Black and Latino caucus party there, I don't think anyone would complain.
Well, as Ricardo Arroyo pointed out, a city councilor, he's not going to be, he didn't win this time, but he has been on the city council. Let's talk about the Congressional Black Caucus. You know, that's been around forever, has it not? Or the Massachusetts Black and Latino Legislative Caucus. That's been around forever, too. So,
and they have get-togethers, too.
Yeah.
In any case, you wrote a couple of times about Claudine Gay, who, unlike Liz McGill at Penn, at least for the time being, we don't know what the future holds, is holding her job. She apparently got a unanimous vote from the Harvard Corporation, the unanimous 11 out of 12. She's the 12th, so I guess she didn't vote. We haven't I don't think we've talked to you about this.
We haven't.
It's become another huge national story. You were a strong advocate for her staying, and well, tell us what you said in both your pieces.
Right. So the first piece was Monday before the board had, the board was deciding her fate.
It took them long enough.
Yeah, and the first story was saying silence is not golden. That the MIT board, the hearing where Liz McGill, Sally Kornbluth, the MIT president, and Claudine Gay, they were in front of Congress talking about campus anti-Semitism, and that was a disastrous meeting, testimony, and after that, though, 2 days later, the MIT board came out in support of Sally Kornbluth.
Yeah.
And but Liz McGill and Claudine Gay continued to twist in the wind, and then Liz McGill ended up being, was resigned Saturday, And I said, has Claudine Gay made mistakes? Yes, she has. Her initial, communication with the university after the October 7th Hamas attacks wasn't strong enough.
And slow again, by the way, speaking of slow.
Yes, slow and not strong enough. And, she, along with the other two presidents, gave legalistic answers about what to do for calls of genocide on campus, instead of saying, this is wrong. Students shouldn't be saying that. And so, but do I think they're fireable offenses? No, I don't think so. And I think she deserves a chance to lead, and I think it's up to the board to, support her and help her get Harvard through this, because there is a lot of politics involved. I mean,
well, she's got to act. I think she's got to act forcefully at coming out of this and surviving. I think she's really got to be public and confront this stuff head on, not with legalistic stuff.
She does, and it was a bad performance. But what killed me about this is that, to me, Harvard looked ridiculous. That Elise Stefanik, who is attacking people for anti-Semitism, when she has spent the last few years trading in anti-Semitism almost nonstop. She was criticized for talking about the replacement theory, which is basically, it's talking about elites and code word Jewish people wanting to bring all these people of color to the United States to undermine white voters. I mean, she talked about that during her campaign. She said nothing about Donald Trump's repeated instances, starting with Charlottesville, where the Jews will not replace this stuff. So they're going to be, because Elise Stefanik badgers them for however many hours it was. Michelle Goldberg talked about listening to the entire hearing and how it was a badger session from beginning to end. I mean, didn't that occur to anybody, how ridiculous that looked?
I mean, I think Harvard is not used to being in the line of fire, and I think their reaction is to ignore it and to not play offense. I mean, but I'm hoping that they'll be more proactive, because they're losing. I mean, they have donors like Bill Ackman on Twitter, on X, attacking.
Who was savage in the New York Times in the middle of this whole thing, by the way.
But he's still, he's still going after Claudine Gay. He's now going after MIT as well.
Is he going after Elise Stefanik?
No, I don't think so.
No, I mean,
can I say one thing about this?
Is just gone.
You're going to be upset with me because I mentioned this the other day, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Again.
You know why they're not prepared for people like Stefanik? Because they don't talk to real people often enough. The Harvard presidents, and it's not just Harvard, they speak to the Crimson, which is a student newspaper, as they should. I would say in the 24 years we've been on the air, we've invited the Harvard president at the time, whether it was Summers, I don't know if he was president then, or Bacow, or, well, I don't know if we've invited Gay yet. I assume we have, Jamie says. We have never, when they're former presidents, they're happy to come on.
Right, Drew Faust.
Drew Faust wrote a book. You talked to her, we
right.
talked to her. The president, prior to McGill at my alma mater, University of Pennsylvania, was on the show. And Jamie just said they don't even respond to our requests, much less say yes. And the reason you're unprepared for an attack dog like Stefanik is you don't put yourself in positions where you have to deal with real people. And I would suggest not only is it prepare you but it's also good for your institution to have you be out there talking and explaining what you're all about, what your school's all about.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I mean, they have, they need to, Harvard needs to be proactive. They need to get their message out and if Claudine Gay doesn't feel comfortable doing it, they need other people doing it for her. I mean, at the very end, I remember over the weekend, I was thinking to myself, where's the faculty? You know, where are the black alumni? Like, where are the former presidents? Why, if you support Claudine Gay, where are they? And they finally, you know, on Monday, you started to hear from hundreds of faculty and alumni publicly supporting her. And then after the board weighed in, then you had all 5 presidents supporting Claudine Gay.
You know what you didn't write, and we'll move on from this. And maybe, I don't know what you think about it. If I were Claudine Gay, would worry about how long it took for the board to do what was the obvious thing to do. The conclusion I reach, totally not based on anything I know, is if they were so supportive, it seems to me, they would have come out of the box in a second, as the MIT board did for Kornbluth. And the fact that they didn't suggests to me there wasn't unanimity until there was unanimity.
You know, I think that's, I mean, I don't know anything either.
Sounds like you do.
No, I don't know anything
okay.
either, but I'm just saying that one thing we have not talked about is the plagiarism. I think that took the
We should mention that for people who didn't
plagiarism.
read it. Explain that to people.
In recent, you know, in the last week, their conservative outlets have been reporting that she plagiarized, and they quote other scholars who, you know, looked at her research, her dissertations, that there, you know, instances of plagiarism. And then when the Harvard Corporation, the board came out in support of Claudine Gay, they also mentioned the plagiarism. They said, we are aware of it, we investigated, we basically did not find that she, you know, find instances of research misconduct, but she is going to correct some papers. So I think that also was the holdup as well. They needed to clear the air. I mean, I thought it was, I praised the board for, you know, they could have just put 2 sentences, said we support her, but they explained it. They acknowledged they acknowledged she made some mistakes. They acknowledged they addressed the allegations of plagiarism, and I think that was really important in order to kind of clear the air so the entire community can move forward.
Okay, so speaking of not moving forward, the Globe, I think, brilliantly, and I mean brilliantly, did their annual
backward.
Person of the Year.
Catching
and this
on
year,
fire.
it happened the morning that Mayor Wu was with us the other day. So I asked her, I said, do you know yet, because she was busy in the morning, have you read yet who the Globe's Person of the Year is? Here's the mayor and then me.
I just saw a quick look. That should be Bostonians of every year.
So
every year.
And they are the beleaguered MBTA commuters. The mayor, if you're not watching on streaming, is smiling. Did you love that? I love that.
That is great.
That was good. No, I meant, did you love that your paper picked these
I
people
did.
as the people of the
yes,
year?
the magazine's brilliant. I think it was one of the magazine's editors, Young Jin Kim, had suggested.
Is that so? I love that. It's
we
great.
should look at Boston. You know, look at you know, the T writers, the essential writers.
And by the way, that came out, I think, the day before the story in the Globe, saying some T commuters were now either buying cars, getting driver's licenses, or walking to their work or their destination because things were so bad. I have to say, I know I speak for Marjorie. Phil Lang spent an hour with us the other day, which I thought deserved a lot of praise considering how untransparent, if that's a word, his predecessors have been. Took every question.
Was that the first TGM you've had on?
No, we had him on, but just to talk to us.
Right.
Prior GMs.
Prior GMs.
Marjorie, have we ever had a GM of the T? Even on the show, even
never.
I don't think so.
Yeah. Never.
And he took questions from. I had no idea. People
was
were
good.
respectful,
I was listening to it.
even if they were upset.
Yeah.
And I think that does a lot to make people feel better about the T. We're talking to Shirley.
So what I loved about my colleague, my colleague Janelle Nanos wrote that cover story, and I was talking to her about it beforehand. I said to her, you need to catch up with Nicole Marullo. And I had written about Nicole. Nicole was carried a sign.
I know.
When the slow zone started on the red line, she carried a sign saying, we deserve a better T. And I never followed up with her. I was like, I wonder what happened to her, because the slow zones, you know, went on for another year. I wonder if she carried that sign for a year, but she did. I think she only lasted 6 months. I think she had to, you know, it was the summer, and then she had to put her winter coat on, so it was too much. And now she has a slightly different commute, but I've forgotten how long it's taken. I mean, the slow zones continue, I think, on some parts
Oh, yeah.
of the system.
Well, shutdowns are still scheduled.
Yes,
Virtually every
yes,
line to get there.
yes.
We're talking to Shirley Leung from the Boston Globe.
Okay, what do we got left here? Oh, tell us
What
about.
do we have left here?
Well, I just.
I know,
was
me
looking-
too.
My,
I was thinking,
my
what do we
list.
do- what-
my
Until we
list.
get rid of this woman,
Yeah.
let's see what we can get.
I was not trying to get rid of you, Shirley. I'm
sorry.
just trying to keep in order because.
How much time do we have left?
Very little. Talk fast.
We have an order, and I like to keep to it because if I don't keep to the order, I'll hear about it later on.
Maybe you will.
okay.
Maybe you won't.
Okay,
You never
so
know.
next in order is the CEO of Dana-Farber.
Oh, okay.
What a woman. I would be totally intimidated talking to her.
I think some people are intimidated by her.
I bet. I said, wow.
This is about Lori Glimcher,
Yeah.
the CEO of Dana-Farber, and she's part of one of the biggest news stories of the year.
Yes.
In September, she made an announcement that Dana-Farber, which has been had a partnership with Brigham for almost 30 years, they're going to break up, have a divorce, and Dana-Farber wants to build its own hospital with Beth Israel, and they're hoping to open their hospital in 2028. That's when the Brigham contract ends. And a lot of people don't know who Lori Glimcher is, and actually a lot of people don't know who her son is.
Jake Auchincloss, the congressperson.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know they're related, and so anyways, I wrote a profile of her, and I think one of the fascinating things about Lori Glimcher is that she spent decades in a lab at Harvard, running her immunology lab at Harvard. I mean, decades, and it wasn't until she was in her mid-50s that she decided, I want a second chapter. I want to do something else. And she had sat on a corporate board, and then Sandy Weil called her out of the blue. This is the former CEO and chairman of Citicorp, or Citigroup. And he has the Weill Cornell Medical School named after him because he's been a big donor. And so he said, you know what? We need a new dean. Would you consider interviewing to be the new dean of Weill Cornell? And so she was 59 when she got the call. She got the job, and so she became a CEO very late in life. And then from there, she went to Dana-Farber.
And this has seemed, like you said, like a huge coup. I mean, that Brigham and Mass General were kind of caught unawares, and she just snuck right in there. And Beth Israel is going to get this whole big addition.
Well, by the way, but you're stating is definitive verbs. There's still people who are not convinced this is going to happen, aren't there?
Well,
in the industry,
I was convinced after I read your piece.
Well, yeah, because she's very well.
Yeah.
One of
Get out of the way.
Right. One of the themes of my story was, I mean, it's who is Lori? Who does Lori Glimcher think she is to do this? And one of the themes was about how, as a researcher, she was taught from very early age from her dad, who was a very famous, also physician researcher. In order to do anything big in science, you have to take risks. To make breakthroughs in science, you have to take risks. And so that's what she's doing. And she did that throughout her career as a researcher. And she's kind of taking that same playbook now at Dana-Farber. And she's like, if we want to transform cancer care, we gotta do our own hospital. But you're right, Jim. Some people in the healthcare industry are not sure if this is the best course. Maybe the best course is what Brigham and Mass General Brigham, the parent, their idea is that the best form of cancer treatment is you provide cancer care within an academic hospital setting, a big network. Just like so Brigham's going to go on their path, and so now people are concerned there will be so many hospital beds, it will raise prices, drive healthcare costs up for everybody, and so I think it will happen.
Well, also she has to coexist with the Brigham for a number of years, which is another interesting dynamic.
She does.
Can we only have a minute left, and I really want to mention this. I think it ended yesterday. The 19th Mass Women's Conference.
Yeah,
tons of women come.
Very impressive.
The best part of the
crowd.
story, and people like Jacinda Ardern, former Prime Minister of New Zealand, who I'm a great admirer
Margaret
of.
Atwood.
Margaret Atwood.
Handmaid's Tale.
The best part of this story, though, to me, is I haven't seen Barbie yet, but I've read a lot.
You haven't seen it?
Don't get angry.
Have you seen Barbie
Yes.
yet? Oh, finally.
It was
Finally.
incredible.
America Ferrara
Incredible.
is
Yes,
there, who
yes.
allegedly has the most memorable
The monologue, the famous
in
monologue.
this thing.
Yes.
And she talks about how she's ready to deliver the monologue to these 1,000 women or whatever.
I was hoping.
Oh, you were
I was
there?
I was there, and
Oh,
I was
didn't
like,
know that.
I was like, I want her. We're all waiting there. I was like, she's got to deliver the
Okay, so
monologue.
here's a little piece of it, and then it'll be obvious, but you can explain what happened when she started. Here's a little drop of that famous monologue from Ferrara.
It is literally impossible to do.
The sound is
horrible.
The sound is
Yeah,
horrible
but
because 1,000 women are reciting this monologue along with her, right?
So it was. I understand it was the interviewer's idea. So America Ferrera's in this fireside chat. There's 9,500 women.
Oh, I thought it was 1,000. It was 10,000?
9,500 women.
Oh, I didn't know that.
At the Boston Convention Center, the
South Boston?
South Boston. 9,500. She's like one of the luncheon keynote speakers. And at the very end, we're all waiting, right? We're all waiting for America to deliver the monologue. She has to deliver the monologue. And so what they decided to do was they would have all 9,500 of us. They put the monologue on the screen, and we all said it together.
That's brilliant.
And it was great. And some people I think got emotional, and it's a very emotional scene of a movie. And I think it was great for America to see 9,500 women.
Harold didn't write about that, did they?
No, they didn't. No.
It wasn't on Drudge.
So Shirley, responsible for the Say More podcast with Shirley Young, tell us what's coming up.
Yesterday was Brian Bernstein was filling in as a guest host, and he had Manolo Kellis, who's an MIT professor, and it's a great episode on kind of he's a MIT professor. He says AI, he kind of is a voice of reason on AI. He's like, it's not going to take everyone's jobs. It's going to augment the humans. And he also says that, AI is nowhere near Skynet. It's not going to take over the world. And he says competition is good. It's really actually good to have all these different companies developing AI rather than just one
Why
single
do you have
company.
a fill-in, if I may ask?
Oh, because I want to write more columns. So Brian is filling in once a month to do AI. So I can write more quick
She needs
columns.
a break. This woman worked her fingers to the bone.
I need a little more break. Yes, exactly.
Hey, Shirley, it's great to see you. If
Thank
we
you
don't
very
see
much,
you, Merry
Shirley
Christmas
Young.
and all those
Yeah, I'll
things.
see you.
Thanks so much. Oh, you will?
I'll
Great.
see you virtually next week.
Okay. Shirley Young is a business columnist for the Boston Globe. She's also the host of Say More, the great podcast, which you can get wherever you get your podcasts at. Again, is Say More. Thank you very much, Shirley. Coming up after a quick break, Brookline's own Alex Edelman. You've probably seen this comedian, and he is a very funny guy on Colbert or Jimmy Kimmel. Maybe you've seen him on Broadway. He's coming up next. You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming on youtube.com/GBH News and facebook.com/GBH News.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. I'm Jim Browdy. She's Marge Egan. We're live at the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBHnews, facebook.com/GBHnews. We were supposed to be joined by this huge comedian, Brookline native Alex Edelman, but our guest is like 11, so I assume it's Alex's son. It's very nice to meet you. His father's great recent hit, he's taken it all over the country, including Broadway, is Just for Us, inspired by his experience attending, this is true, a white nationalist meeting. Amid a surge in anti-Semitism and discrimination, Just for Us obviously has a new urgency. It's also been, we should say, wildly well received. It's been a New York Times critic's pick. A Washington Post described it as diamond cut perfect. Variety called it hilarious and irresistible. He's back for 3 performances of the show, Just for Us, at Emerson's Colonial Theater tonight, tomorrow, and a matinee on Sunday. That's where I'm going. For information and to get tickets, go to emersoncolonialtheatre.re.com. What's your name, young man?
I'm Alex Edelman. I was just commenting on what a raucous audience this
It's raucous.
is. Oh, they're
That's
so
right.
raucous.
Raucous. That's right.
Being shushed by a librarian. No. People here reading speculative fiction, please.
So Jim wants to get this out of the way up front that he was first in his bar mitzvah class.
Oh, I was number 1 in my bar mitzvah class. What were you?
Why are you telling me that?
Well, I thought it might be relevant to your experience.
Why do I have? I'm not Jewish. That's a common misconception. I'm not Jewish. I'm actually a Cabot Lodge. That's what most people don't realize about me. I'm a lesser Kennedy.
Oh, yeah, you do have
I'm a Shriver. That's the thing that people don't realize. I'm not I'm a private Shriver, not a sergeant.
What was your
Shriver,
favorite
not a
bar
lieutenant.
mitzvah gift? Tell the truth. What was your favorite gift?
First of all, I'm part of this sect. I'm like an Orthodox.
I know
was
you're
raised
not
Orthodox
like an
Jew.
Orthodox.
So the theme of my bar mitzvah was Judaism. Like there was nothing fun about my bar mitzvah. There was no exciting. No.
You didn't have the cardboard cutouts of you as a young man?
Are you kidding? The most exciting gift I got from my bar mitzvah was like various bits of Judaica. I got like a kiddush cup, and I got like something in cover challah. I got a menorah. I got a second circumcision, which was not good. Oh my gosh! It's killing at the library.
It's killing. That's
I just got one person to look up from their biography of Lee Iacocca. I am just absolutely annihilating here.
Okay. You are obviously quite good at what you do, and you come from a very distinguished family, as I understand. Tell us about your father and your mother, who criticizes his parking.
No. All right. No, I'm not doing my bits.
Oh, you're
I'll
not?
tell you, no.
You won't tell us
I'm
anything
not
about-
doing my bits. I'm not a clown. I'm not even Jewish. My dad is actually a really interesting guy. My dad is
Artificial hearts.
No, that's for the joke. That's not true. My father does.
I'm devastated.
Yep.
What does he do?
He designs stents.
Oh.
Drug-eluting stents. I thought that might take a bit too long to explain to a comedy audience, so I tell them it's artificial hearts.
Oh, that's close enough.
But I always know who's seen the jokes and who knows my dad, because they're like, your dad does artificial hearts. And I'm like, yes, if you watch Colbert, he definitely does. But yeah, he designs drug-eluting stents, and he has tenure at Harvard and MIT. So, and I think he's the longest tenured Jewish faculty member at MIT, which is very interesting considering that I myself am not Jewish, not even half. So it's really, I think, bewildering that my father manages to be.
So things at the Maimonides school did not go well for you then?
Oh, yeah. Things did go out. Wow. And it's so funny. You can hear someone yelling for an iced Americano in the background. This is a library.
This is a library. That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
People are trying to read, but Maimonides. I went to Maimonides school in Brookline.
Yeah.
I grew up in Brookline. I'm a Brooklynian.
Yeah. And then you decided to become a Buddhist or a Catholic, or what happened there?
I decided. Yeah. No. I'm actually. What do you mean decide to become? I've always been a blue chip Brahmin wasp.
Okay.
And this is,
okay. Okay.
Perfectly. Some people here not sure if I'm joking or not. I see people going like.
I think they're pretty sure.
Yeah.
I think they're
So if you don't want to talk about your bits, maybe you could tell us about being the guy that kind of was the host, I guess you called it, Norman Lear's 100th birthday
That's
party.
right. I hosted Norman Lear's 100th birthday. I haven't checked the news in a few weeks. I hope he's doing great. But no, Norman.
You put him over the edge.
Yes, I hosted Norman's 100th birthday party, which was really cool, actually. He was one of my heroes. And so I don't know why I got asked to host. I don't think Norman knew why I got asked to host. But
you explained it.
What? Oh, yeah. Well, I did.
Does she have to prompt you on everything for you to tell a
Here's the
story?
thing. I don't repeat. I do everything. Yeah. Okay. The reason that it was explained to me that because there were so many people who deserved to host Norman's 100th birthday special that if they pick someone who clearly deserved it, then other people will be offended. But if they pick someone who was so clearly like having their Make-A-Wish Foundation wish granted, then it would be absolutely okay.
Yeah.
And so I did. But apparently the reality is Norman saw me on YouTube or something like that.
There you go.
And he had seen me
Okay.
live once or twice. But he was an absolute gemstone. I'm very disappointed. I actually thought he would live forever.
He went to Emerson, by the way, right down the street. Do you know that?
Really? It
Yeah.
feels like he predates Emerson, so I'm really surprised. I feel like the Back Bay wasn't filled in when Norman Lear was in college.
We're talking to Alex Edelman from Brookline, whose father, I didn't know this till a few minutes ago, invented the artificial heart. which
Yes,
is
that's
really-
absolutely true.
It's incredible. Now, a couple of weeks ago, we had Jay Farrow here, and Jay was talking about how nervous he was when he did, so to speak, Barack Obama in front of Barack Obama. Now, you didn't do Joe Biden, so to speak, but we were told by our crack staff that did you perform in front of the President of the United States? How was that?
I hosted Broadway for Biden for the. I hosted Broadway for Biden a couple of weeks ago for the president. He's a pretty good sport. I made a bunch of jokes at his expense. But
Can we hear any of them?
Well, I said he loves Hamilton, the president. Because he knew him.
Oh, God.
And I looked over the
It's like a
president.
Catskills kind of thing.
Yeah, but he was fantastic. He was fantastic, and also I made what else did I say? I made a bunch of January 6th jokes, and he has a wonderful sense of humor.
I think he does.
The guy, too, yeah. And he made a joke at his own expense. He said, I've been in public service for about 400 years, so I bring a lot of experience to the job. He's very, and one-on-one, he was like sharp and
He was.
and
Oh,
perfect.
good.
He is absolutely as personable and nice and engaged and present as you would like the President of the United States to be. I asked him who his favorite president was. And he said, I get asked that a lot. And then he went, who's your favorite president? And I was like, Garfield. It's my favorite president. Didn't want the job.
So, was the electricity in that crowd similar to what you were finding here at the library? No?
It cannot compare. Watching people look over the rims of their Michael Chabon novels to down the barrel. It's actually really incredible.
Now, hold on, before we leave Joe Biden, so I just want to know, because millions of Democrats are very concerned about the presidency because they're worried that Joe is not, as swift as he used to be. But you're saying having this one-on-one interaction.
Yeah, he was fantastic.
Well,
I was really impressed, and he was really engaged, and we had a nice conversation about Larry Raskey, who was a Bostonian who was close with the president, who I knew.
Right.
Maybe your research team didn't tell you this, but I worked at the Red Sox for 2003 to 2007.
You worked for Steinberg, right?
I worked for Dr. Charles
So
Steinberg.
he's sort of like the guy who does all the promotions.
That's right. And so
is he with the Woo Sox now? Or
he is. He's the president of the Woo Sox, and him and Larry Lucchino were my bosses, and Larry Raskey, who was very close with President Biden before he passed away of COVID in 2020.
One of the great voices of all time, Larry Raskey's voice.
And he was such a great Bostonian and such a huge part of the fabric of the city. And so having I got to have a long chat with the president. Sometimes you're talking to someone, you say the right name, and they're like, yeah. Like I said, Larry Raskey, someone I really loved when I was growing up. And he was like, you knew Larry? And so we had a nice long chat. And then he asked me how Lucchino was, because I told him.
Really?
Larry Lucchino knows everyone. The guy who used to be the president of the Red Sox, he knows everybody. Like, I ever run into anyone who's like above the age of 60 in Boston, or who's above the age of 60 anywhere, I'll be like, Hillary Clinton was a paralegal on Watergate with Lucchino. Yeah, we're getting off topic.
Do you know who went to law school at Yale with Larry Lucchino? Judge Nancy Gertner,
I did
our
not
regular
know that.
guest
Yes,
on the
that's
show.
right.
Do you know who Gertner is?
Yes, I know
How
her.
the hell do you know who Gertner
I
is?
know her through Larry Lucchino, just like
is that
everybody
really
else.
true?
Yes.
That's ununbelievable. Did you go to Brookline High School? Where'd
No,
you go?
I went to Maimonides. I went to the
Maimonides,
yeshiva.
okay.
Yeah, right.
Okay, fine.
Even the people reading know
Okay,
this.
fine. No, let me tell you, the reason you were theoretically here is to talk about your show,
Please,
which is tonight, tomorrow, and then a matinee on Sunday, just for us. I know you don't like talking a lot about the content, but explain what the centerpiece of this thing is for the few who don't know.
So the short version is I myself am allegedly Jewish, and I went to this meeting of white nationalists in Queens, and I sat there for an hour, and eventually one of them was like, sorry, but this guy's Jew. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a Jew. And so that is broadly what the show's about, and that was a number of years ago, but for some reason it seems to have obtained new for 5 years. I've been doing the show in various iterations with a long COVID break in between for 5 years, and since I started performing it, everyone's like, God, your show is so timely. Like, yeah, anti-Semitism is a problem and ice cream is delicious. Those are the two. It's something you can always bet on. If you want to write an evergreen show, but it's...
Do you have a favorite anti-Semite? Do you have a list?
Walt Disney's up there. Henry Ford is up there.
That's right.
We used to have such good anti-Semites. That, I think, is a big problem for us, which is we used to have such high-quality anti-Semites. They created jobs. They built industries. They were the president. And now we have such lackluster... anti-Semites. I think if someone should be advocating for a better quality of anti-Semitism.
Well, you are apparently.
Yeah, it does. I don't want to lead a march or anything. But you were mentioning Charlottesville with the
the tiki guys.
It's such a thing with the Jews will not replace us. Whenever I see that, I'm always like, we don't have the numbers. We're like 1%. You think I want an anti-Semite's job? You think I want to coach like high school football in rural Virginia? You think that's on my to-do list? That's not a wish for me.
Yeah.
I want. Also, we'd have to return so many tiki torches. Be like,
That's
I know
right.
we bought 1,000, but we only needed 11 of them. Actually.
Well, as long as you brought that up, I mean, I did think it was rather interesting that Elise Stefanik was attacking everybody for their anti-Semitism when, needless to say, her record has been somewhat checkered.
Look, I think it shows how hard it is to be the president of a university.
Yeah.
I think my father's been. I hate to be serious, but my father's been an academic for a long time. He's been in university leadership for a long time. And I think it shows how difficult it is, especially with an issue that is so complicated in a country that is so obsessed with binaries.
Yeah.
And I think if there's one thing about my show that, look, I go to this meeting of white nationalists, and the show is broadly about, the relationship between Jews and whiteness, because people can only see white and not white. They can't see any sort of spectrum. And so I think what we've been learning from the testimony this week and the response to it is exactly how hard it is to to put a finger on a conversation that is evolving. And I think I don't know. I have serious, long, and boring opinions about
Okay,
the
well,
testimony.
let's get. I want to know what it is, because I'm not going to go to any white nationalist meetings or conventions or
You
anything
don't know?
else.
Well,
no,
someone's
I'm
not doing their journalistic duty.
I probably should be there, but
There are places
Jim
in
can
Eastie
go.
that would. No, it's
But I want to know what it's like. Was it like in a big room? What were people wearing?
surprisingly spacious apartment in Queens.
It was in a spacious apartment in
It's a
Queens.
pretty
Okay.
spacious apartment in Queens. I'm not giving you the address.
Yeah,
but,
do people have masks on, or do they take their masks off inside the apartment? We have a lot of neo-Nazis around here.
They had masks off, but that would make sense given that it was long before COVID.
Okay.
So
But
if
here
they
they
were doing
come-
it then, I'd say that they're extremely health conscious.
But here they come here in these masks to protest.
Oh, it wasn't. It was sort of a coffee clutch.
Yeah.
They did not assume that I was. They assumed for a while, except for a few more gimlet-eyed people, that I was part of their number.
Yeah.
So-
So what do they talk about?
Yeah, I got to see the show. You got to see the show, don't you?
Just give me a little hint.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday?
Give me a little hint.
They're not huge fans of Jews. How's that? They're not crazy about the Jews.
Okay. Oh, and when they found out that you were Jewish, what did they just look over there and say, that guy looks Jewish? I mean, why did they decide you were Jewish?
You have to see the show.
Okay.
You're asking me. It's the end of the show.
Okay.
There's a whole
I don't wanna-
dramatic
okay.
tension and a
Then I
narrative
don't-
reveal.
All right, we won't ruin it.
They do kill me at the end, which is very surprising.
no.
So it's a slight departure.
I heard your interview the other day with Jared Bowen on the Culture show.
Oh, he's very good.
You say he's very good. He made you one of his top 10 somethings of the year, whatever he said. He liked your show a lot. And you said, he asked the natural and almost obligatory question about how October 7th affects what you do.
Yeah.
And you responded by saying you thought nothing was off limits in terms of humor. And
There's
you gave an
nothing.
example. And we never ask a comedian to tell a joke, but I'm going to ask you because Jared didn't think the joke was funny at all. He barely laughed on the air. I was in my car and I almost had to pull over the Holocaust joke. Can you share that with us?
Well, the joke, I don't think the joke is very funny.
I
but
think it's
the
very
best,
funny.
I think it's the best joke that's ever been written. But I
What
don't
does that
think
mean,
it's
not very funny? Meaning not laugh out loud?
I think people have this misconception that jokes have to be funny. I think it's mostly, I think it's, with due respect, I think it's mostly
That's fine.
people who are not very bright.
Oh,
who think
thank
that
you.
jokes. Not
With
you,
due
not you, not
respect.
you. You're laughing at the joke. What
He
you're
was
laughing at the
first
joke.
in his bar mitzvah class.
I'm not saying that's
a
nothing,
long time
nothing to do
ago.
with me. I'm not Jewish. I don't
Okay,
care.
exactly.
But the thing that I'm saying that some jokes are definitely funny, but okay, I'm going to tell the
joke.
audience
There
the
it is.
joke because people are starting to put their bookmarks in. The joke is this guy dies and he goes to heaven. I found this in an academic paper from the 70s.
Okay.
And this guy dies and he goes to heaven and he meets God, and they're chatting, and he says, "God, would you like to hear a joke?" And God says, "Sure, I love jokes." And the guy tells God a Holocaust joke. And God says, you know, I gotta tell you, I don't find that joke funny at all. And the guy says, well, guess you had to be there, huh?
I'm sorry.
And it's clear it's a great joke. Look, I think the brightest people and the best people laugh at it with no due respect to genuinely, with no disrespect to Jared, because it's a hard wall to climb over to laugh at. But I don't think there's anyone who hears the joke who doesn't go, "That's a brilliant joke."
Okay, can we change gears here?
No, you brought up a really
it's fine.
interesting.
We got that. We did that already.
Okay, fine.
Okay, so everybody who interviews you says this also. Seinfeld comes to your show. You ask him to give you a tip or write you a note. Steve Martin, Billy Crystal, Birbiglia, who we had on a couple of weeks ago. You're going to see him on tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night, yes, I am.
Well, you might get a surprise guest.
Okay, so they
it won't be me. It'll be. It won't be me. It'll be Norman Lear.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
So, what's my question? Oh, I don't even want to know about the notes unless you want to tell us. Are you not? I mean, you are a kid. You're like
He's 34
years old.
Okay, you're like a kid.
I can drive. I can vote.
And these people
I can
are
rent a car in Arizona.
The biggest people ever in the industry. Mm-hmm. Are you nervous when you're doing this?
But
how do you deal with that?
All the best stuff happens after you're nervous.
Is that really? You really buy that?
You got to be nervous. You don't do a good job.
I got to do. The most nervous I've ever been is I've done Comics Come Home the last 2 years at the Garden.
Oh yeah, with Dennis Leary.
With Dennis Leary, and that's the first comedy show I ever saw. I was like 13, 14 when I saw. I think I saw the 10th iteration. So performing at like the 27th is so huge for me, 26th and 27th, and so I'm performing in front of Ray Bork. Like I grew up idolizing Ray Bork, and now it's like a dream. If I was naked, it's literally a dream I had in high school. Like you have to do stand up at the Garden in front of Ray Bork, and I'm like, oh God, is my math teacher there too? But like, Ray Bork was, so it's nerve wracking, but it's also the best thing in the world. And look, my director who passed away, unfortunately, a couple of months ago, the guy who I worked with for 11 years, he's a British guy, but he liked to quote the American football coach Bruce Arians, who used to say, no risk it, no biscuit. Ooh. So you got to, so what, do you not want to ultimately perform for Jerry Seinfeld? Do you not want to ultimately have Steve Martin in the audience? I mean, I did think, I don't know if I can say this on the radio, but I'm going to try. I did think that when I looked at Jerry Seinfeld in the audience, I thought, how did anyone ever shoot Lincoln? Because every moment the crowd was looking at Seinfeld. And when Lincoln was there, wasn't everyone like, does Lincoln like this play? Is Lincoln enjoying this character development? Oh no, Lincoln, look out. Like I thought that's what had to happen because the entire crowd was watching Jerry Seinfeld watch me instead of watching me. So I was like, how did they get,
By the way, Alex Edelman's show, we should be pitching this just for us, is at Emerson's Colonial Theater tonight, tomorrow, 8 o'clock both nights, and a matinee. On Sunday, you go to Emerson Colonial Theater with an RE.com.
Come tonight. The tickets are, for some reason, tickets are very cheap tonight. They're like $25.
Ooh, really?
I don't know.
That's a steal.
Yes, tomorrow is nearly gone, and Sunday also seems to be. Boston is the place I like performing the most.
Well, you're from here. I mean,
yeah, that's why. Because I started here, so so all the stuff that feels weird to people outside of Boston, the weird mixture of like the sophomoric blend of like very smart and very stupid.
Yeah, thank you.
The sort of.
Thank you. I appreciate
I was looking directly at you.
I'm aware of that. I felt
God, I'm such a big fan of your sandwich.
Thank you.
So does your mom, who thinks your dad's a moron, does she go to come
Oh my
see
gosh! Yes, my parents do come see me. They sit there and. They sit there and laugh at the jokes they've seen a million times and have heard at their table. They're good people. They're good audience members, my parents.
And is mom okay with the jokes you make at her expense?
I've never asked. She finds out when she sees them on TV. You know what's interesting? My parents don't even know I do comedy until like this year. They thought it was a clerk. They thought it was a Supreme Court clerk.
Oh yeah.
I told them I was clerking for Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes. And for some reason they bought it. I was like a clerk for Justice Learned Hand.
Yeah.
And eventually.
So when you come to town, do you stay at home or do you stay in a hotel?
I used to stay at home, and now sometimes I stay. I'll be at home at least one night this week just to hang out with my parents a little more. But I've got some errands downtown that I need to do.
When you're 34, you want to stay in the hotel, I think, right?
Yeah, it depends. I'm sick of staying in hotels. I'm on the road all the time. I was, staying in a hotel in Fargo, North Dakota in the middle of February really takes the glamour out of travel.
Do you like it in Los Angeles?
Oh, I love it.
You do?
I love it.
Why?
I love everywhere. Why?
Why?
They're so stupid. It is the best. It is absolutely the best place to live. The people are simple. People are like, oh my God, the country is such simple folk. And you're like, no, move to West Hollywood. Then you get to see the real simple folk. The people who are too dumb to live everywhere else, so they move to Los Angeles. Fantastic.
Just for us.
You have 2 minutes left. You got to fill these 2 minutes.
How do you know that's our clock?
I mean,
he's a performer.
Yeah.
That's
you don't think I
right.
know a clock
Yes,
when I see
no,
one?
he knows a
It's
clock.
not
I
even the one
see
with the
it.
hands. It's the one with the blinking
What do you think of the
numbers.
audience now? Look at the audience
They're
now
so-
as compared to
they're so
what they were like
engaged.
when you began.
God, it's like
Yeah.
a Norman Mailer reading in here. They're just locked to the edge of their seats.
He's dead too, by the way.
I know. I
Okay.
only reference dead people because they can't get upset.
That's a
Okay.
very fine point.
I know you don't like to tell any bits, but there was one that I really liked when I was, and it's probably
I'm
not.
so
it's
happy
not,
to
it's,
hear it.
It's not in your new show.
No, it's not.
The story about making the pancakes.
Oh my God, where did you hear? Oh, I mentioned on Kimmel.
I forget
yeah,
where
yeah.
I heard that.
I was dating a single mother for a while, and the kid was the meanest person I had ever. And so I was making pancakes for the kid, and I went. I said, "Do you know the secret ingredient?" And she went, "The last guy's was cinnamon." I was like, "Oh God." It's a 1,000% true story. Nonchalant, didn't look up. It's right between the ribs. Very good. I have never told that joke on stage. That joke is strictly for.
Well, I like that.
I reserve it to lighter stuff like the Israel-Hamas war. I like to keep it.
Well, it has been terrible. We talk about not being able to talk about anything.
She's smiling while she's saying this, by the way, just in case you're listening on the radio. It's so inappropriate.
I always get criticized for laughing talking about.
So did you change? I wasn't going to ask
people-
you. Did you change your show on because of?
Yeah, I changed my show. There's some stuff in the show about. It feels impossible to not talk about, but also the show isn't it. I think, again, I hate to be serious, but I think the best thing to do in these moments is to do a show that's both in conversation with the moment and also offer an escape to people who have specifically come to your theater to laugh. Like you mentioned Mike Birbiglia. I take a lot from Mike Birbiglia in terms of. I think the shows have to be funny first, and then everything else. And it's been really nice to be on It's been nice to be on like the top 10 theater lists for the various newspapers and stuff like that. But more than anything else, the show is full of jokes and comedy. Because like, when I say like performing here, like people here take their comedy really seriously. They really want to laugh at stuff. So I mean, like they got a sitter and they came in from Medford. So like you've got to give them.
So when people ask you what was your experience like, you've mentioned big shots, Jimmy Kimmel and Colbert and all this stuff. When people ask you what your experience was like on Boston Public Radio with Jim Browdy and Marge Regan, what would you say?
Oh, they've named 2 sandwiches after them, and the crowd is just electric. The crowd is look at them, they've defibrillated half the crowd for this closing ovation. It's so funny. I heard you guys talking about the new Dana-Farber split off, and I'm like, the crowd is so excited for the new hospital. They're going down to Longwood right now to clap for the construction workers. They can't believe their good fortune.
You can segue right from here, right down to Longwood. Absolutely
fantastic.
no problem. Maybe take an Uber, get there really quickly.
Alex, it was great meeting you. You're fabulous.
The crowd of
Thank you so
Amanjis, I'm
much.
sure they're very proud of you. And
Look, it's really exciting to be home, and all kidding aside, I'll end with this because I have to, and the clock has run out. But I started doing comedy at this place next door to the Colonial Theater called Remington's, and thank God it's closed long ago. And the rat-infested hellhole that it was is now an Emerson Dining Hall, just like most things in downtown Boston. But it's so cool to be doing this like gorgeous theater where like Oklahoma started next door to it, and so to do it in like a 1,000-seat or 1,200-seat or whatever it is, a couple nights, it's like truly, it feels like, I think I said this to Jared, it feels like spiking the football a little bit, or coming home with the show. It's really nice to do it on Broadway and in LA and stuff, but to do it here is the
well,
greatest thing.
even though you're not a Supreme Court clerk, I'm sure Mom and Dad are very proud of you.
They'll take the news hard, I'm sure, but it'll be nice to.
Okay. Thank you very much
Thanks
for
for
coming in.
having me.
Very
Thanks
fun
so
to talk
much,
to you.
Alex.
We've been speaking with comedian Alex Edelman. The show is Just for Us, returns to the Emerson Colonial Theater tonight, tomorrow, and Sunday. You can still get tickets for tonight. Alex says you can get some for $25, which is really a bargain. And Sunday, by going to emersoncolonialtheater.com. Saturday is sold out as well. They should all be sold out. That is emersoncolonialtheater.com, and theater is spelled with an R-E. emersoncolonialtheater.com. Thank you very much again to Alex. Coming up, our weekly segment, Who is the A-Hole? We're going to talk about regifting at Christmas. Who is the a-hole in that situation, Jim? The person who regifts or the person who is appalled at being regifted? We're going to talk about that up next. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News and facebook.com/GBH News.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Rowdy. Jim Rowdy? Who is Jim Rowdy?
I don't know.
Let me start that again.
Okay.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy is his name. She's Marjorie Egan. We're live at the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News and facebook.com/GBH News. Every couple of weeks, we totally screw up the time, Marjorie and I. This is mostly my fault. So we have very little time for one of our favorite topics of the year because we want to speak to our good buddy Ryan Landry from the fabulous Rocky Menorah Christmas show in a couple of minutes. So Marjorie, how about we do this? Why don't we set up the issue? If people call in at 877-301-8970, even better if they text, by the way, we'll read a couple of those. The topic is our favorite annual topic, which is the topic of regifting. And we were originally going to intend to do it as one of our Thursday afternoon, I know it's Friday, who's the bigger a-hole, the person who regifts a lousy present or the gift recipient who resents the fact that they were regifted. But let's just do it straight for a couple of minutes. And Marjorie, I know you hate to repeat things on the radio.
I think we should repeat it.
I think you should
I think we should do it a little bit now.
No, I don't mean that.
And then
we're going to
more
do it next week. No, I didn't mean that.
Okay.
You hate to repeat stories.
I do.
But one of my favorite
People
stories...
have heard these stories like 75 times.
I know
Jim.
that, but once a year they hear the stories,
Okay.
and they have to bear with it. Here is Marjorie's, I would argue, finest regifting story, maybe, that I've ever heard. Can you share it with people, please?
Basically, it's this. One of my best friends, Janice, came over to my house on Christmas Eve, and she brought me a lovely gift of scented soaps. And I was very grateful that she gave them to me.
Did you like the gift?
I did like the gift. I like scented soaps very much. And the next day I was going to her house for Christmas Day.
Oh, that's nice.
Tragically, I had neglected to get her a gift because I didn't expect one the night before.
Mm-hmm.
So I was looking around the house for something to give her. And mistakenly, I wrapped up the scented soaps.
The one she had given
that
you.
she had just given me. And I brought them to her house the next
I'm
day.
sorry, that was the next day.
That was the next day. And I rewrapped it, and she opened it up,
Well,
and
rewrapped
she
it is
said,
good.
"My, these look very familiar." So it was a very embarrassing incident.
Now, she has a great sense of humor.
She does.
She's a very kind person.
She
How
is.
did she feel about it, and how did you feel about it?
I was mortified, and I think she thought it was pretty appalling, but she's forgiven me. She's forgiven me, Jim.
So she
She's
says.
risen above.
What do you think about the concept of
I think it's a
regifting?
great concept.
You want to explain what it is for those who don't know the term?
Well, you have something that someone gave you,
Yeah.
and you're not going to use it.
Right.
So instead of throwing it out or bringing it to landfill or having
it's
it
like
in
a
the
climate
closet
thing.
forever,
Yeah.
you can do. Michelle Singletary, the great financial columnist, she's in the
Washington
Washington
Post.
Post, she's in the Globe a lot, says, you can just rewrap it and give it to somebody else that you think might like this particular thing, like the scented soap or the candle, or sort of those generic gifts that lots of us give to people for Christmas because we have no idea what to give them.
Well, that is a perfect explanation
I
of
think it's a
regifting.
perfect explanation. I think it's very, you can save some money because we're all spending too much money at Christmas, and you can give
Well,
some.
it's good for the climate, as I
Good for
said.
the climate.
Because you're not
That's
doing...
correct.
Now, we said primarily next week we're going to take calls on this, but since Dan from Boston called in about a second after I said that, I feel an obligation to talk to him. So Dan from Boston, welcome to the show. We're talking about regifting. Welcome.
So I'm one who I agree with regifting. I have no problem doing it, but I am sorry, Marjorie. The biggest a-hole is the person who gives the gift back to the same person who had it.
Now, I can't argue
sorry
with
to
you,
say
Dan. It was very much an a-hole move, and I've been mortified by it for years and years. You got to be careful, right, Dan? You got to
Maybe you
make
write down
sure,
who gave it to you.
That's right. Or you don't want to give the gift.
Jamie is his name.
Jamie told us earlier. Can I repeat the story about he gave someone
Dan, thank you.
a
You're totally
gift
right.
with the person's name that originally got the gift,
And
on
he
the
hadn't
bottom.
taken it off.
Like it said to Dan.
Yeah, that's a really
or
nice
to
gift.
Marjorie, and the person opens it up and says, "Wow, this says to Dan, who happens to be my ex-husband.
Yeah.
Why am I opening this present on Christmas?" That you have to be very careful. Or if you
An
do
embroidered thing that has your initials on it is probably not a good thing to regift.
Or you
unless
know what
that
people
person
regift
has
all the time?
What's that?
Bottles of wine, and they forget to take the little gift card
Yeah.
off.
No, they don't. You do.
Yeah, well, not me. I've learned my lesson, Jim. I've learned my lesson.
Now, here's a little sound from the Label Maker episode of course, Seinfeld. It's usually Larry David we're citing. The episode credited with popularizing the term regifter. This is from the first moment. Here it is.
I think this is the same one I gave him. He recycled this gift. He's a regifter.
Or maybe he liked your gift so much he decided to get me the same thing.
Perhaps.
Well, how did he react when you gave it to him?
He said, "Oh, a label maker. How about that?"
He repeated the name of the gift?
Yeah, so?
Oh, well, if you repeat the name of the gift, you can't possibly like it.
What do you mean?
Oh, you know, like when someone opens something up and they go, oh, tube socks.
So that's where the term, I love that term,
Okay.
by the way, regifting.
We have some great emails.
Please.
Patrick from Canton says, I regifted a Yeti tumbler I got from work to a friend, but I never opened it. And when the friend opened it, it had my name etched into the side of the tumbler. Marianne from Franklin says, I gave my sister-in-law a working mother coffee mug because we both stayed home with our little kids. The following year, she gave me back the working mother coffee mug, literally the exact same one because it had the tag on it to Jill from Marianne in the box.
So let me ask you, based upon your experience with your close friend Janice,
Yes.
giving her back the next day, not the next year, the gift she had given you, have you changed any behavior as a result of that?
Yeah, you know what you have to do? You have to
What?
go out and buy some generic gifts. Sam from Fairhaven says it's generic gifts.
You have them ready?
Well, yes, you have these generic gifts, and you can regift the generic gifts if it's for someone specific. Well, as he puts it, if the gift is considered personal and meant for a specific person, it's not okay to regift. So what you do is you get candles, scented soaps,
hate candles,
those
yeah.
kinds of. I don't know why people hate
Everybody
candles.
hates
I love
candles,
candles.
yeah, okay.
So that you can regift, and they're kind of if someone suddenly gives you a gift and you're not ready, you'll have other gifts to give them back. That's what you have to do, Jim. I have learned that, and I am trying to reform my ways.
Okay, so let me give you, if people keep notes about their moments with Boston Public Radio, I want to repeat, because we started this so late, next week we will be revisiting regifting here on the show. One of the days we're here next week before Christmas. And the good part is Marjorie and I will fight over this in the morning. Marjorie will be asked to retell her story
Yeah, I've only told it
of
100,
these scented
110
soaps
times. Listen
on
to this.
our show.
I got Victoria's Secret lotion for Christmas. I regifted it to another friend. 1 year later, this friend's husband gave it back to me for my birthday. So there you go. Everyone's doing it, Jim.
Okay, so a little earlier in the show, we had Jared Bowen here. And we were asking what Jared Bowen thought of this zany, a word I've never used in a sentence, this zany show that was performed by the Gold Dust Orphans, created by the brilliant, according to some, Ryan Landry. It's called the Rocky Menorah Christmas Show. He said it was one of the finest performances and productions he had seen in years. And the man responsible for it all, here he is, Ryan Landry. Let's hear it for Ryan Landry.
Hello.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I've been taking a lot of grief.
Have you?
Yes, because you made me say bad words, screaming them over and over and over again. And I've gotten texts about it, and I've gotten friends have complained.
And your kid
You're
is going
kidding.
tonight.
Come on, read these texts.
And my oldest daughter is going tonight, and I had to prepare her so she wouldn't be shocked.
Marjorie, read these texts.
Well, I don't have them right now, but I've gotten.
Oh,
haven't
no,
I gotten
of course
them, Jim?
you don't have
I have.
them right
They said they
now.
were shocked and appalled that I would be dressed up in leather, screaming bad words at the
With a
top of
whip.
my lungs.
With a whip.
That's right.
Whipping James.
Whipping James. That's right.
What's the audience reaction been? We were there one night. What was the audience reaction been to the cameos, if I may call that, of Marjorie Egan and me, Jim Browdy there, Ryan Landry?
Well, they love it, especially when Marjorie throws you out the window 3 stories down.
She does.
They love that.
That's right. That's a big one. Somebody I can't find this one, but here it is. This is Stuart in Millis. Tell Ryan his show had us in stitches. He is a genius. So how about that? I did find that one.
Well, yeah, but you're talking about people saying that they had big trouble with you saying dirty words. I want to hear those emails.
Yeah. Well, we'll find them for you. We
right,
got
find
them.
'em.
By the way, she uses the worst language you can pretty
I
much
do.
use. Can we put
It's
a
bad.
photograph of Ryan up as Mrs. Grinchley? Do we
Grinchley.
have- There is Ryan
There's Ryan,
Landry.
looking good.
That would be him. You really look good in garters.
Yeah,
by
I like the
way.
garters.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You are hot. You know what I was a little troubled by?
What?
So I've read 2 reviews so far. I'm sure there are more. I read the BUR review, which incredibly failed to mention us. And then I read Terry Burns' review.
I didn't write the damn
I
review.
read the Terry Byrne review in the Boston Globe, and here's what she says about the play and the Gold Dust Orphans and Ryan. Raise the bar once again. Zanier every year, spicing it up with eclectic, often bawdy, and always hilarious elements that include Santa Claus. And while she does mention us, she just mentions that we're in the show and doesn't say anything about our performance. What do you take away from that?
Well, I'm sorry, James, but you seem to be confusing me with your agent.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, he got a great review. That's what matters. You got a great review.
Yeah.
And
no, people love you guys. I mean, they, I don't know why, but they go absolutely bonkers.
But there were other things to remark on. Marjorie Taylor Greene, we love that part. The whole thing is based on the Rocky Horror Christmas show. I mean, we have the naked guy running around on stage. That was a big moment.
And James, I've never seen you look better.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was a good one. And
that's next year, Ryan.
You can go back and you get a couple of cocktails.
Oh, did I tell you what next year is?
No.
Harry Pooter and the sneaky little fruitcake.
Oh, I love that one.
I'm sure it is. Thank you very much.
But you can go get cocktails before the show. You can go get more cocktails during intermission.
And
you're in an intimate spot. There was a whole.
You always mention the cocktails.
That's right. Well, you know,
Marjorie.
you can get a little extra spice going there when you watch the show. But what does it seat like? 400 people? It's intimate.
300.
Okay, so it's sort of an intimate. You're close to the stage, which is really kind of cool.
How do you get tickets again for the 400th time?
You go on brownpapertickets.com and you type in Rocky Menorah.
You do, and by the way, you don't really have to go to Brown. You keep saying that, no one remembers. If you type in Rocky Menorah and something like South Boston, the site comes up and you can go, you can buy tickets, kind of thing. By the way, you know what I noticed, and I haven't been to every one of your shows. I've been to a lot of your shows. You sang more in this show than I ever remember you doing. Am I correct about that?
My apologies.
No, I'm serious. Is that accurate, do you think, or not?
Yeah, well, why not? It's a rock and roll show, and
we have band.
I was raised on rock and roll.
You were? I've heard that before from someone else.
Oh, Jamie's saying that Marjorie mentions the cocktails because the staff grabbed themselves under the table.
They were really all drunk.
Which
it's
did.
horrible. I have to tell our listeners at home and here in the studio audience, the GBH staff are the biggest bunch of drunks that have ever lived.
That night,
every year, there's one of them that passes out in the front, vomits in the elevator. I'm kind of sick of it.
Yeah, I was sick
What
of it
happened to
myself.
respect for the theater?
It's outrageous. So when this run is over, I mean, do you go to Acapulco or something?
We're supposed to promote the run, not
well,
what...
I just wonder, because you've got to do this. You're doing this almost every night, right? I mean, it's got to be exhausting. So do you go on a vacation or do you go to some retreat?
I go back to New Orleans. I have a house in New Orleans. I paint there. And then I go to Florence, Italy to go back to school.
Oh, Florence, Italy, where Ryan is a famous tomato influencer.
Tomato can influencer.
Yeah, tomato can influencer.
God.
That's your finest title. I mean, you say to yourself, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a tomato can influencer.
I do. We only have 10 seconds left. Promote the damn show. You're here to win.
Every show is sold out except for the 22nd and 23rd. We have tickets for those last two shows. So if you want to get them, tickets, go on brownpapertickets.com. You'll have an absolute ball. Do not bring the children and get ready to party and laugh.
It's very fun. We had a great time as we do every single solitary year. Thank you very much.
And by the way, if I say so myself, and we can say this because Ryan not only wrote our parts, he directed us. We are pretty damn funny in this thing.
Marjorie's grown as an actress.
I have grown.
She
That's
really
right.
has as an
After you
actress.
screamed at me many times, say it louder, scream it
And she
louder.
does.
Oh my God.
Ryan, we love you. Good luck
Okay.
with
We love you
the end
guys.
of the
Bye,
run. Ryan
everyone.
Landry.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much,
Come to the
Ryan Landry.
show.
Go to the show. It's great. It's great.
Okay, we are done for today. Thank you very much for listening to another edition of Boston Public Radio. Thank you to people that came down to the library and were given a hard time by Alex Edelman. We don't think anybody's whatever
you
he
all
said.
for coming. It was great.
Come up with us. Keep up with us 24/7. We have our podcast, which of course is called Boston Public Radio. Tune in Monday for former Boston Globe editor Brian McGrory. He's now at BU. We're going to talk to him about that Charles Stewart series that the Globe has been running, which is also on HBO. Monday Morning Politics with him as well, plus the Ground Truth Project's Charlie Sennett, Yale's Dr. Megan Rennie on the public health and the gun epidemic, the Reverends Irene Monroe and Emmett Price for All Revved Up, and two people from the United Nations Foundation. Our crew, Zoe Matthews, Aidan Conley, Nicole Garcia, Hannah Loss, our engineer John the Claw Parker, our executive producer Jane Bologna, on-site library help today from Matthew Glover, Maddie Geyer and Jackie Callagher and Isabella Karen. Stay tuned to GBH 89.7 for the Culture Show, which starts at 2, the Week in Review. I'm Marjorie Egan.
I'm Jim Brody.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you can tune again Monday and hope you have a great weekend.